the previous CMD, Mr. Rath, superannuated on the 31st of May. After that, for a month, it was Director Personnel, and then from 1st of July, the Director Commercial has been given additional charge till Mr. Atul Bhatt, the present CMD of Mecon, joins as CMD. So till such time, the additional charge has been given to DC. So I suppose all of you are aware that Mr. Atul Bhatt, who is the present Chairman and Managing Director of Mecon, has been the only candidate who was called for the interview. And but here, so this is something which perhaps many people have objected to. I have been receiving a lot of telephone calls whether this is actually allowed, where only one candidate is called. Though Mr. Saxena was also a contender for CMD, he did not get a chance to appear for the interview, which I think is not really fair, because you should have called everyone for the interview and then decide. It was little unfair on the part of Bureau BPSC, Public Sector Enterprises, to call only one candidate for the interview. But anyway, this is how PSUs work. So that is the situation as of now. And Saxena ji, I know the plant has performed quite well in spite of all the unrest that you have been going through. So my heartfelt congratulations for, especially since you are the head of the plant. As the head of the plant, obviously your challenge was much bigger than what we can imagine here.
Thank you.
And Saxena ji, आज सुबह ही मैं मिस्टर सुब्रता मित्रा से बात कर रहा था that there have been previous instances where since in Vizag Steel Plant I have been visiting for almost last 24-25 years. My experience for the last 25 years has been quite a few unrest, and unrest in the sense a part militant unrest, I would say, was something which I witnessed, and Mr. Subrata Mitra has also witnessed.
I feel hello.
Yeah. Yes. So that is something I think has been managed quite well.
Hello.
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Chaudhary,
hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, बोलिए सक्सेना जी. So the situation in the plant is better.
Plant is running well. I must say that in past we might have seen many unrest, but now the workforce is mature. They do dharna, but they keep continuing the production.
That's great to hear, and I see your production figures have also been quite impressive. I saw the last month, in spite of all that, you've done quite well. Chaudhary Saab, namaskar, and a warm welcome to you. Ankit, Mr. Anil Kumar Chaudhary has joined, right?
Yes, he was in the release and he's now in the panel.
Yes, I was waiting for my upgradation, so which finally Mr. Ankit did it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, and a warm welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chaudhary. Mr. Chaudhary, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Great to have Chaudhary Saab
Thank you.
once again back. And last webinar I mentioned he's a storehouse of knowledge, and I mentioned that right now he's working from home, but he's not working for home because he keeps himself updated on whatever is happening. And the reason why I always wanted him to address was because he's really a storehouse of knowledge. So it's a great honor for us to have Chaudhary Saab.
Thank you very much.
And in Vizag, Saxena ji, whenever I am in Vizag, I ensure that the ex-CMDs are always invited, whether it is Mr. Sagar Rao, whether it is Dr. B.N. Singh, all the previous CMDs I invite, whenever I do a conference in Vizag, primarily because the knowledge, the experience that you get from your predecessors is something you cannot match. So it is really a blessing that we are getting the advice and support of the great luminaries like Mr. Chaudhary. in our journey forward. So once again, a warm welcome, Chaudhary Saab. And
Thank you.
With
Thank
that,
you very much.
Ankit, we have another 5 minutes. think
No, actually, it is about
one-
time to start.
1 minute or 29, yes. So
Yeah.
1 minute to go. So only Mr. V.R. Sharma, Ankit, if you could ask Pradipta to just follow up with Mr. V.R. Sharma, whether I can send him a WhatsApp message, but it's better that you ask him to just call and find out whether Mr. V.R. Sharma is ready to join. So we can get started in a minute. Just send a WhatsApp message.
Yeah.
I'll also send it to Mr. V.R. Sharma. I'll send- Because it's almost time. Or let's get Ankit, let's get started. Then Mr. Sharma can join in the meantime.
Okay. I just yeah, I asked the office to call Mr. Sharma and see.
So yeah, we can start in the
Okay, yeah.
meantime.
So in
We
the
can,
meantime, I guess we can start.
yeah, because it's already time. Yeah.
Yeah. So good afternoon and a warm welcome to all the panelists and the attendees who have joined us today, and also to everyone who's watching on our live stream on YouTube. We welcome you all to our 27th webinar titled Long Steel Technology Forum, organized by Steel and Metallurgy. A warm welcome to our silver sponsor, Sham Steel, our lead sponsor, Jindal Steel and Power, and to the chairman of our organizing committee, Mr. Subrata Mitra, ex-Joint Managing Director, M.N. Dastur & Co. Before we move on further, I would like to introduce our panelists for today. First, we have Chairman of our organizing committee, Mr. Subrata Mitra, ex-Joint Managing Director, M.N. Dastur & Co. Limited, and Editorial Advisor, Steel and Metallurgy. We have our keynote speaker, Mr. V.R. Sharma, MD and CEO, Jindal Steel and Power Limited. Mr. Anil Kumar Chaudhary, ex-Chairman, Steel Authority of India Limited. He's the guest of honor. Then we have our panelists, Mr. A.K. Saxena, Director Operations, RINL, Visakhapatnam Steel Plant. Mr. Jayanta Roy, Senior Vice President and Group Head, Corporate Sector Ratings, ICRA Limited. Mr. Kamal Agarwal, Honorary Secretary General, All India Induction Furnaces Association. Mr. Rohit Sadaka, Director, Corporate India Ratings and Research, Fitch Group. Mr. Debashish Majumdar, Senior General Manager, Operations and Operation and Maintenance, Steel Division, Tata Steel Long Products Limited. Mr. Mukund Jha, Divisional Head, Steel Melting Shop, Tata Steel Long Products Limited. Mr. Pankaj Sharma, Manager, Bar and Wire Rod Mills, Danelli India Limited. Mr. Ravi Mahajan, Proprietor, Radiance Consultant, Long Rolling Mills. And Mr. Anuj Solanki, Proprietor of TechSmith Steel Solutions. So thank you all for joining us today. And thanks also to our sponsors, our lead sponsors, Jindal Steel and Power, and our silver sponsor, Sham Steel, for supporting this event. Before we proceed, I would just like to share a few short guidelines. Of course, by now, everyone is quite accustomed to the Zoom forum and the online webinar format, but I'll just quickly breeze through them. So firstly, for the numerous attendees who have joined us on Zoom to listen to our discussion, we have a Q&A section in Zoom, which can be accessed by all the panelists as well as the attendees. And of course, we also have the chat. So if you have any questions, you can directly post your queries in the Q&A section or the chat, and the panelists can choose to either answer it live or directly in the chat. I would also request all the panelists to keep their microphones muted when the other panelists are speaking to avoid any kind of noise feedback. And last but not the least, I would request all panelists to adhere to the time limit as given in the program to avoid any kind of delays. Our session moderator for today's discussion will be my father, Mr. Nirmalya Mukherjee, who is the editor, Steel and Metallurgy. And before we move on to the welcome address, I would just request everyone to please rise for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Yeah, thank you, everyone. So I would now request Chairman of our organizing committee, Mr. Subrata Mitra, to deliver his welcome address and take the session forward.
Thank you, Ankit. Thank you, Nirmalya. Thanks and welcome to all the eminent panelists who have joined today. We have today a very important topic to discuss. We have amongst us virtually MD of leading steel producer JSPL, who is yet to join. Of course, Mr. V.R. Sharma. We have ex-chairman SAIL, director of leading steel plant RINL, senior plant executives, some catalysts and analysts. Mr. Agarwal of India Association, technology suppliers like Danieli, and other analysts like ICRA and FITFI, plant operators. So now everybody knows, then we are all aware that the world is standing in a threshold and a situation which has practically made the whole world shaken with the pandemic. So what we are talking today, our topic, the long products, the post-pandemic situation and the growth of long products will be of interest. We would request the panelists to highlight on that. Then regarding technology of long products, higher grade long products, what is the situation, how much safety we have, technology like endless casting for the future of the event. Now there are certain online, there are certain other opportunities for long products in the business area, because India, many of the steel plants have become old, so the replacement of old structures will consume a lot of products. And amongst the technology, new technologies, online diameter change is coming, high-speed mills situation, what is the status? So in short, the world and practically India is awaiting the post-pandemic situation. Long products has taken a hit now. Flats are selling at a premium, but long somehow, due to the lower infrastructure spending, has taken a hit. And we all hope we will cross. We are right now at a crossroad which will overcome this, and the long products production and the market will increase. We're all awaiting the good days to come for long products. So we'd like to hear from the eminent panelists who are here, their viewpoints in this. Thank you, and I'll throw the floor open for further discussions.
Before we move on to the sponsors presentation, let me welcome Sharma Sahab. Namaskar and a warm welcome to you, Mr. V.R. Sharma. He has just joined us. So Mr. Sharma is always on time. So that is something which is not worried at all.
Yes.
Sharma Sahab, namaskar and a warm welcome.
Good afternoon, namaskar.
Good afternoon, Sharma Sahab. Good afternoon.
And once again, let me congratulate you, Sharma Sahab. Whatever you have predicted always has come right. Point one. Point number two, since you came back in your second stint as managing director, last 3-4 years, you have turned the company completely around. And as we were reading, you are set to become one of the largest single location plants in India. And our heartfelt congratulations for leading the team right from the front. And let me say, Angul is one plant. Angul plant is one plant which is very close to your heart, because I know, you know that plant in and out. So the basic DNA of the plant was from your end, Sharma sir. So there is no doubt about the fact that whatever you wish, I'm not saying Raigarh is behind, but whatever you wished in Angul has always come true. So with that, once again, a warm welcome to you. And may I request Ankit to now have the corporate presentation of JSPL and Shyam Steel, please.
Yeah, is the screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah, and now we have another corporate video from our sponsor Sham Steel. So I would once again ask if the screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
कौन होता है असली चैंपियन? जो सरहद पर देश की रखवाली करे, वो है असली चैंपियन। जो घर की रोटी कमावे, वो होता है असली चैंपियन। जो रेस जीतने से पहले लोगों के दिल जीते, वो है असली चैंपियन। जो देश की तरक्की की बुनियाद रखता है, वो है असली चैंपियन। जो अपने हाथों से देश की तकदीर बदलता है, वो है असली चैंपियन। चाहे वो आपके सपनों का छोटा सा प्यारा सा घर हो या आसमान को छूती बुलंद इमारतें, असली चैंपियन बनने के लिए हर कसौटी पर खरा उतरना पड़ता है। इस हौसले को आगे लेकर बढ़ रहा है श्याम स्टील, जो अपने मजबूत और लचीले टीएमटी रीबार से देश की उन्नति की बुनियाद रख रहा। 1953 में इस उद्देश्य को मन में रखते हुए श्याम स्टील की स्थापना हुई। 60 सालों के अटूट भरोसे के साथ श्याम स्टील प्रगति की उड़ान भर रहा है और हम गर्व से कह सकते हैं कि श्याम स्टील ने देश की नींव को हर मुमकिन तरह से मजबूत बनाया है। चाहे वो देश को ऊर्जावान बनाने वाले न्यूक्लियर, थर्मल और हाइडल पावर प्लांट्स हो या देश को जोड़ने वाले नेशनल हाईवेज और ब्रिजेस, चाहे वो आसमान का रास्ता बनाने वाले एयरपोर्ट्स हो या भारत की रगों में दौड़ती हुई भारतीय रेल। पूरे भारत में हम कई प्रोजेक्ट से जुड़े हैं, जैसे कि दिल्ली मेट्रो, जामनगर रिफाइनरी, कोटा न्यूक्लियर पावर प्लांट, रोजा थर्मल पावर प्लांट, हैदराबाद अंतरराष्ट्रीय हवाई अड्डा और ब्रह्मपुत्र एवं गोदावरी पर बने हुए पुल। इतना ही नहीं, हमें कई सरकारी संस्थानों में मान्यता प्राप्त है और हमने कई बड़ी सरकारी परियोजनाओं में भी अपना योगदान दिया है। राज है हमारे उच्च गुणवत्ता वाले उत्पाद, जिसके उत्पादन की प्रक्रिया शुरू होती है पश्चिम बंगाल में स्थित हमारे अत्याधुनिक इंटीग्रेटेड स्टील प्लांट से। श्याम स्टील का ये प्लांट देश के उन चुनिंदा स्टील प्लांट्स में से एक है जहां स्टील बनाने की शुरुआत से अंत तक की पूरी प्रक्रिया को अंजाम दिया जाता है। अधिकतर सरकारी निर्माणों में श्याम स्टील के 500D TMT रीबार्स इस्तेमाल किए जाते हैं, क्योंकि इसी में है मजबूती और लचीलेपन का सही संतुलन। रीबार का मजबूत बाहरी कवच भार सहने की क्षमता बढ़ाता है और भीतर का लचीला भाग भूकंप, सुनामी और तूफान जैसे प्राकृतिक आपदाओं को झेलने की क्षमता प्रदान करता है। बाजार में 500D के अलावा अन्य प्रकार के TMT रीबार्स भी उपलब्ध हैं, पर 500D से ज्यादा ग्रेड वाले TMT रीबार जैसे कि FE600 इत्यादि मजबूती बढ़ाने के साथ लचीलापन कम कर देती है। हमारा स्टील प्लांट अपने आप में असाधारण है और इसकी वजह है हमारी 10 पॉइंट क्वालिटी मैनेजमेंट प्रणाली। हर उत्पाद की जांच हमारी अत्याधुनिक क्वालिटी लैब में होती है, जहां 100 kV यूनिवर्सल टेस्टिंग मशीन, स्पेक्ट्रोमीटर के साथ और भी कई आवश्यक मशीनों के द्वारा हर उत्पाद का निरीक्षण होता है। इसलिए हमारे तैयार उत्पाद हमेशा गुणवत्ता के हर पहलू, हर कसौटी पर खरे उतरते हैं, चाहे वो लचीलापन हो, भार सहने की क्षमता या फिर गजब की मजबूती। ये बेहतरीन उत्पाद हमारे डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स, डीलर्स और रिटेलर्स के विस्तृत नेटवर्क द्वारा देश के हर कोने में पहुंचाए जाते हैं। हम देश और दुनिया की कई बड़ी कंपनियों के साथ काम करते हैं। अंतरराष्ट्रीय बाजार में भी श्याम स्टील के उत्पादों की मांग तेजी से बढ़ रही है। जितनी गहरी हमारी नींव है, उतनी ही ऊंची हमारी उड़ान। ये उपलब्धि उन सब लोगों की है जिन्होंने श्याम स्टील की बुनियाद को अपने मेहनत और निष्ठा से मजबूत बनाया है। श्याम स्टील समाज के प्रति अपनी जिम्मेदारियों को भी बखूबी समझता है। शिक्षा व्यवस्था बेहतर बनाने के लिए हम गांव के इलाकों में विद्यालयों के विकास संबंधी कार्य करते हैं। वहां किताबें और अन्य शिक्षा सामग्री भी उपलब्ध करवाते हैं। स्वास्थ्य के क्षेत्र में भी हमारे प्रयासों से सैकड़ों लोगों को सहायता मिलती है। श्याम स्टील में पर्यावरण को बेहतर बनाने के लिए भी कई प्रयास किए जाते हैं और प्राकृतिक आपदाओं के दौरान लोगों को खास सहायताएं भी दी जाती है। आज इतिहास फिर करवट ले रहा है। आजादी को कई साल हो चुके हैं और हमारा देश एक सुनहरे भविष्य की ओर बढ़ रहा है। श्याम स्टील इस सफर की एक अहम कड़ी है और हर कदम पर भारत के इस अटूट भरोसे को और मजबूत बना रहा है। भविष्य हमारा है और वर्तमान भी। जमीन हमारी है और आसमान भी। हिंदुस्तान हमारा है, हम हैं इसकी शान।
Thank you, Ankit. Thanks for the support of our sponsors. Without them, we would not have been able to move forward. So with that, we'll come to the keynote address of our today's webinar. The keynote address will be delivered by none other than Mr. V.R. Sharma, Managing Director and CEO of Jindal Steel and Power. And as I have been mentioning, he is also one person who has immense knowledge, technically sound, and he understands the pulse of the industry in and out. So with that, I'll move on to Mr. V.R. Sharma, who will deliver the keynote address for today. Managing Director, JSPL, Mr. Sharma. Sharma sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, my friend, my fellow panelists. It's a great pleasure to be part of this particular forum to speak something on long steel technology. It's my pleasure that I'm with you, with all of you today. The country is passing through a very, very challenging time. The technologies are being improvised day by day worldwide. The cost of production is going to be reduced further. The affordability of our products, whether it is rebars or it is angle, channels, beams, rails, that has to be made or simplified so that people, the customers, they can afford the material at the price what we are offering to them. There are so many developments in the country. The project report for the river linking mission of Government of India, it is already in the final stage. I'm sure within next few months, this river linking project report, detailed project report will be out. And a major change we will find in the overall demand of steel the moment the river linking campaign is taken by Government of India. There are many projects which Government of India is declaring now. And as we all know that without the support of government, anywhere in the world, the long products, especially the construction steel, and also the products like angle iron, channels, beams, heavy structures, they do not move. So government has come with a plan, solid plan of more than 6,000 to 7,000 kilometers of electrification of railway lines. So that is going to consume a lot of steel in terms of transmission towers, galvanized material, and for the required for the electrification. The other area is that government is working very strongly how to improvise or how to graduate the low voltage grid to high voltage grid or the DC grid. So today we are seeing that a lot many grids still available, 63 kV and 132 kV or 230 kV. All these grids are to be, all these lines are to be graduated. Transmission lines are to be graduated to either 750 kV or DC 400 kV, that is HVDC, and also 800 kV. And finally, it will come to 1200 kV lines. So all these factors, they are demonstrating that country is all out to consume more and more steel. The steel ministry, they have taken a target that we'll be doing 300 million ton by 2030. This means that target will definitely be achieved in 1 decade time. Though if we compare it with China, they were there in 130 million ton they used to produce in 1985, and today they are producing 1100 million ton. So you can see that from 1985 to 2020, in 35 years, they have increased their production by 850 to 900 million ton per year. We are aiming for a very moderate target of 300 million ton, which is very feasible and very practical. I'm sure the country will achieve it. Today we produce 102 million ton steel only, and of course there was a COVID, but still we could do in three digits. It's good. Congratulations to all of the steel mills, but there are challenges also. So challenge of iron ore, challenge of raw materials like scrap, HBI, pig iron. So these challenges are coexisting with our issues. So today for the blast furnace routes, they are also facing a lot of challenges because the coking coal prices and iron ore prices at the international level are equalized. They are at around $220 each. So this is happening in the world now. Excuse me, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear.
Yes, you are audible, Mr. Sharma.
Yes, sir. We can hear, sir. Very.
Okay.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So these are the areas which we have to see that how to address these issues. The other point is the internet-based knowledge that is improving day by day in the country. When we go to buy some consumer durables like refrigerators, washing machines, or any gadgets, household gadgets. So when we want to take a feedback from the customers, then we get rating out of 5, what is 2 star, 3 star, 1 star, 5 upon 5 or 10 upon 5, 10 upon 10. So a situation is going to come in the country where all these ratings will be available online. And the consumers are getting more and more literate, more and more technology oriented. And time has come that steel products will be sold through the ratings available on internet and not the advertisement or not on the hoardings, not on giving some news or some articles in newspapers or on television. So customer is becoming so smart that in times to come, they can identify that which product is better, which is not, which product is made out of the right process and right technology, and which product is not made out of right product and right technology. So what I suggest to the entire steel fraternity in the country, especially for the long products, sooner the induction furnace people, they graduate to either electric arc furnaces or to the blast furnaces, better it is for them and better it is for the country. So today we have two kind of business, two kind of products available. One is from the major steel plants and the other is from the small or I would say medium-sized steel plants where they have only induction furnaces, and even not many of them, they do not have the ladle refining furnace. So I think in next 2 to 3 years time, the bigger challenge will be for them, those who do not graduate to a right kind of technology in the country, because customer is becoming more and more educated, more and more learned and knowledgeable. We have seen that Government of India has allowed many of the small plants, and they have allowed very clearly that they can supply the material to any of the government projects. But unfortunately, this is not happening today because the price difference in the long products supplied by the major producers versus the small producers is very minimum. Today, it is only 500 rupees to 1,000 rupees a ton. So when the price difference is so minimum, then the customer, they are attracted to buy the material from the major mills than from buying from the smaller mills. If the gap is 10,000 rupees, 12,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees, then yes, few of the customers, they can go to the products which are more affordable to them, and they can compromise on certain process route and everything. But the moment the delta is only 1,000 or 1,500 rupees a ton, it will be very difficult for the smaller players to sustain and survive. I have also requested to Government of India through various forms that all of the induction furnaces in the country, they should be given financial support so that they can convert their induction furnaces into electric arc furnaces. And the biggest sport, what we have been advocating for the last so many months, and that is basically to make India under one tariff. If there is a one Bharat, one tariff policy, and if we get power or electricity at a price of about 4 rupees or 4 rupees 50 paisa per unit across country, right from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, then the induction furnaces, those who are going to convert or graduate themselves to electric arc furnaces will be more viable. The scrapping policy has already in place today, and more scrap will be available in the country. But all these scraps cannot be used by the induction people, induction furnaces owners, because electricity cost is very high. If the electricity cost in northern India that is ranging from 10 rupees to 15 rupees per unit, and here unit means the total electricity bill divided by number of units, because there are so many hidden charges which are not known to the people, and they still feel that in our state the electricity is 8 rupees per unit or 7 rupees per unit. But ultimately the cost is more than 10, 11, 12 rupees. In down south, it is as high as 15 rupees per unit. In Maharashtra, it is 12 to 15 rupees per unit. So this is a big impediment in bringing the right product and right quality of the long products. So we request to Government of India, number one, that all of the induction furnaces plants should be given the financial support so that they can put up or they can graduate to electric arc furnaces. Number two, on pan-India basis, the electricity cost should be one, so that all of the scrap processing plants, they can supply the scrap to the local or regional steel industries. Otherwise, all this scrap will come to again to blast furnaces, to BOF, basically the major steel plants and the electric and the blast furnaces will consume this scrap into their BOF, because BOF can take even up to 20% of the scrap, and that means that there's shortage of scrap in the country once again. The other point here I would like to mention that country is now facing a challenge in terms of the technology as a whole. Like the world is working on hydrogen-based technologies. We are still working in the 1940s philosophy. So I think we have to now start thinking and re-looking into that how we can reduce the overall CO2 emission. We are still working on coal-based DRI or sponge iron plants, which are going to be phased out, and better we phased out, or earlier we phased out, better it is for the country and for an individual company. So the best is to put up the gas-based plants. In many of the locations in the country, now natural gas is available. Otherwise, coal to syngas and syngas to DRI is the answer for tomorrow's steel production. So the world steel mills, they are emitting about 1.8 ton per ton of CO2, whereas our range is from 2.2 to 3 ton per ton of CO2. I think we have to start thinking now. Maybe this will take about 10 to 15 years time by the time we graduate in terms of the right technology and the right application of the technology for our kind of industry. The other area which is going to be in a big review, that is the major steel plants today, 5 steel plants, those who are 5 million ton club capacity they are producing about 56 million ton steel. And everybody is trying to double their capacity. Hopefully by 2027, all these 5 plants through greenfield projects or through brownfield projects, they will reach a level of about 120 million ton steel. If the smaller units, those who are running through induction furnace route, if they do not graduate themselves, they do not increase their capacities through electric arc furnace, then they cannot grow. So to make them grow, because country needs 300 million ton steel, and the major steel producers cannot produce 300 million ton steel today. So they will have to invest in electric arc furnaces or mini blast furnaces. And finally, they will have to, from 40 million ton today, they'll have to reach to about 80 to 90 million ton in times to come. If they come to 80 to 90 million ton and 120 or 130 million ton will be produced by 5 major producers, and then followed by Government of India company, RINL and NMDC. So put together, we all can do about 250 million ton steel by 2030. Still, we are short of about 50 million ton, 50. So this 50 million ton steel, from where this will come? This can only come either through some of the foreign direct investments coming in the country, or some multinational companies, steel companies, they come and put up their shops, put up their steel plants here in India. So that is the only answer in times to come. So I'll not take much of your time, but a few things and few takeaways. One, China was at 110 million ton in the year 1980. In 1985, they were 130 million ton, and in 2020 they are at 1050 million ton. So for us, reaching to 2000 by 2030 300 million ton is not a very big task. The other point we have to take care that Government of India is all bent upon spending money on infrastructure, and be it railways, be it river linking, be it water drinking, be it large diameter pipes, be it gas pipeline, natural gas pipelines. The country will keep on spending money on infra. And if the company keep on spending money on infra, then the long products business is going to be excellent. The other area is the technology. The technology in terms of rolling technology, in the mill manufacturers, they have already started manufacturing state-of-the-art mill, and few of the manufacturers, they have also developed the wire rod blocks. So this is a very good sign, very good development, and they all have good collaborations with companies like SMS, companies like VI, that is Primetal, companies like Danieli, and also Kobe Steel. So when such kind of technologies are coming, that means we can make India Atmanirbhar in terms of bringing the capital goods in the country. And I'm also very glad that one of the mill supplier has already developed the high-speed delivery system for the rebars. So high-speed delivery system was not existing, the technology was not existing in the country. We used to import from either Italy or from Germany. We have 2 plants of high-speed delivery where we can achieve 48 meters per second of rebars production from each stream, and the total 2 stream is 96 meters per second. So they are one of the manufacturers in India, and they have already developed a 32 meter per second of high-speed delivery. That means 64 meter per second. And if you have a 64 meter per second, it is a wonderful production, what one can achieve about 0.7 or 0.8 million ton rebars in one particular year. So this is a very good sign. Most of the steel mills are now working how to improve the steel making, how to reduce the overall gang from the overall steel production, how to reduce the impurities, how to reduce the copper level and silica level, and we reach to a level which is more affordable, more flexible steel and more tough steel. So my message to the entire steel fraternity, I'm not talking as a managing director of GSPL, but I'm talking as an Indian. So we all should try to make the best of the best steel in the country so that each and every citizen of the country gets benefit at an affordable price. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharma Sahab. Once again, I completely agree with you on the thought that our so-called smaller players, as per ministry notification, you cannot call them a secondary producer anymore. So we call them integrated smaller players. They need to start secondary refining right away. This is something which is the need of the hour, because gradually we have to upgrade ourselves from a price conscious market to a quality conscious market. This is something which is already happening, and I'm sure in the days to come, with the more educated customers coming up, we will have a concern for quality and secondary refining. I think Subrata, you'll agree with me that secondary refining is a must. Subrata, Mr. Subrata Mitra, I think, okay. But I think this is something which all technocrats agree on it. And the other thing, day before yesterday, we had a press meet with the Mr. Daman, CEO of SMS, and Mr. Daman clearly mentioned that the new company which they have acquired, which is Polworth, for the iron making part, and their main focus would now be to focus on decarbonization and automation, with Industry 4.0 moving on. So the next generation steel plant would be much more, I would say, automated, much more with the level of AI, artificial intelligence. All this would be used to a major extent. And also hydrogen is coming up. The writing is already on the wall. The use of hydrogen will actually take place. Magnitogorsk, which is a Russian steel park, MMK, they've already introduced hydrogen. And as Sharma Sahab rightly mentioned, use of syngas is something which is happening globally. And I think JSPL rightly showed the way for that. They had some teething issues, but anyway, that has been well taken care of by JSPL. And with that, we'll move on to Mr. Anil Kumar Chaudhary. Before that, may I ask Saxena ji? Saxena ji, you have a meeting with Ministry at 4:30, right? You are muted, Saxena ji. आप unmute कर लीजिए.
Yes, sir. Meeting at 4:30.
Meeting at 4:30. So, Chaudhary Sahab,
sir, let Chaudhary Sahab speak, sir. Sir, let Chaudhary Sahab speak.
No, Secretary, absolutely no issue. First, you can speak, and after that, I will come in, please. And moreover, I have the right to speak first because perhaps this is the only steel plant in the country with long products. So they have first right to speak. So, Mr. Saxena, please go ahead.
Sir, so kind of you, sir. Thank you.
And Saxena ji, one more thing. Let me vouch for Chaudhary Sahab. He is not a person with any ego. So he has no egos whatsoever. Like Sharma Sahab. I've been always saying Sharma Sahab, I've known him for many years now. Like Chaudhary Sahab, I know him when the day he was Director of Finance. So both of them, I can vouch one thing for sure. They have no ego problems. So
we are going to listen for all colleagues. This is a platform which gives a lot of national spirit. And Namaskar, Chaudhary Sahab. Again, I'll be glad to listen to you. We shared previously many webinars and common platform to knowledge. So thank you so much that you are part of this webinar today. So over to RINL, please carry on. Thank you.
Saxena ji, please carry on, and Chaudhary Sahab will have a longer time because you will leave him enough time to have a longer slot for him. So that's a better option.
Sure.
Saxena ji, please go ahead. Yeah.
Good evening, Chaudhary sir. And good evening, Sharma Sahab. Good evening, Nirmala Mukherjee sir, and other panelists. Sir, first let me say I have worked under Chaudhary Sahab, so I know he does not have any ego. And I had the opportunity to work with him. And sir, coming to this webinar, generally we get slightly disappointed whenever we talk of long and flat. But if we consider that long is not a very advantageous position. But after doing some data crunching of last year, it is remarkable that you will find that in long products, there is not, hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you, Saxena ji. Please go ahead.
You will find that demand and supplies are nearly matching in almost all segments of long. Wire rod mills, bars and rods was nearly same. It has increased. So you can say that long steel segment really has shown the resilience even in that time of crisis when let's say people did not have money. And of course, government sector, not much of work was there, but still it is, the particular level of demand in long product was there. And as far as exports are concerned, yes, billets, we were able to export billets in absence of, when finished products are not being consumed, so we could export billets. But right now, what is affecting us most is, and especially to RINL, the prices of iron ore and prices of iron ore, which is really in last 2-3 months, they are skyrocketing, and then prices of coal are also are increased. So these are the things which are affecting us as long manufacture, long and long only, and perhaps that is where we find the relevance of this session, that how we can reduce on cost by introducing new technology. And as far as we just had one comparison, that with same chemistry you produce HR coil, and with same chemistry you produce normal rebars, and there's a difference of around 16,000 rupees per ton. So I request all designers of mill and technology providers that please give those quality inputs in the mill, so that we can also add some value and get some good money from market. Regarding the pricing of iron ore, we feel that this National Mineral Index, as it comes, will definitely help at least to RINL, where we do not have mines, and they are also affected by a few other things. I mean, that is the issue for all the steel manufacturers, be it long or flat. That is availability and prices of ferroalloys. That is also affecting us right at this moment. And but yes, we also see opportunity, because recently China has reduced their production by 30%. So we see some opportunity over there of exporting billets as well as exporting to the finished long products, the market which they are evacuating. But at the same time, there appears to be a threat from the same quarter, that is it that they will be reducing their pollution by not producing hot metal and steel, but taking semis from our country and then converting it to the finished product and selling it back to the market. So that is, one threat we always have, in addition to the opportunities which we have of exporting billets or of exporting even finished long products. So with this, I'm just leaving the speaking podium to Chaudhary sir. And I still have time, so I'll have an opportunity to listen to Chaudhary sir, which I always love to. Thank you, Nirmalya ji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Saxena ji. And from the core of my heart, I have always been telling you that how close Vizag Steel Plant is to my, very close to my heart. I think Mr. Subrata Mitra would also agree, because we share the same feeling as far as Vizag is concerned. We both have love for that plant. And as I told you, my relationship with Vizag goes back to the days of when Santosh Mohan was steel minister, Mr. Musa Raza was steel secretary, and Mr. Jay Mehra was CMD Vizag. So that's almost 25 years from when I was connected to that plant. So it's something which geographically it has an excellent location. It's a shore-based plant, and I see a very bright future. And the amount of land which that plant produces, you have a huge, enormous quantity of land available. The only drawback was, of course, there was no raw material security of the plant. So, and water is a problem, because water availability of water was a challenge for the plant. But I think these issues are being sorted out now. I suppose your OMDC mines are also operational now. The court cases are almost over, if I'm not mistaken. So OMDC will provide a very little support to you. Plus, I think efforts are always on to, have the captive mines for the plant. Once that happens, I see a very bright future for mining. Saxena ji?
So within a month or two, we are going to start a Center of Excellence in association with the Ministry of Electronics and IT at Vizag.
Yes, we did a webinar with them as well. So they at least as far as artificial intelligence is concerned, Industry 4.0, they are closely cooperating with Vizag Steel Plant as well. So Ministry of IT is doing a lot of work. And, as I was telling you, Vizag Steel Plant, having an excellent geographical location, having advantages in terms of land, is poised to grow in the days to come. And once, let's say the government has a plan in place for its expansion, I think in a single location, you can easily go beyond 15 or 16 million tons. I mean,
20 million.
20 million.
20
right?
million.
Yeah, so it can be one of the largest single location plants. And traditionally, Vizag has a very young workforce, so it can grow enormously in the days to come. So thank you, Saxena ji, once again. And with that, I'll move on to
Thank you, sir.
our guest of honor for today, Sri Anil Kumar Chaudhary, ex-chairman SAIL, and a person who has seen the ups and downs of SAIL thoroughly, who, in spite of not being a metallurgist, in spite of being a finance professional, has a thorough grasp over technology. And I saw him during the last meeting in Germany. We were together, and I saw how deeply entrenched he was with his meetings with whether SMS or Primetals or others. In fact, I met him at the SMS booth in Germany. So technologically also, Chaudhary Sahab, in spite of being a non-metallurgist, has a tremendous grasp over the subject. So over to you, Chaudhary Sahab, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of inputs from you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. At the outset, I would like to thank you, Mr. Mukherjee, and also Steel and Metallurgy, who took care to organize this webinar. In fact, this is second in the series. I remember last month we had a very successful webinar on flat steel rolling. And also we discussed the innovations which have been happening in the flat steel, and also the application, why they are performing better than the long steel, and how they are able to take an edge over the long steel in the international market, and what all happenings are there in the international market which have been brought them to the coveted level than the long products. So before I start my discussions on this subject, I would like to restrict myself on the long steel technology only, because flat steel we discussed, and the general issues also we will not be discussing, because I find that this is one subject which needs to be discussed in detail, because the industry is facing problem, particularly those who are in the long product segment. They have been facing problem for the last few months, and this is the high time that we should come together and discuss that how to rescue those units which are already closed, or those who are or which are on the verge of closure. So my very good afternoon to all the co-panelists. I would like to thank Mr. V.R. Sharma, who gave a very elaborate discussion about the steel industry. And also we have with us Mr. A.K. Saxena, Director of Operations, RNL Visakhapatnam Steel Plant, Mr. Jayanta Rai, is the Senior Vice President and Group Head, Devashish Majumdar, and Mr. Mukanja. And we have with us Mr. Kamal Agarwal. I always call him the Doyen of the industry, because he had been there in the industry for a long time. And I remember whenever I used to have a meeting with the steel minister, he was the first one to be invited, and he was the one who used to take up the issues pertaining to the secondary steel sector before the Honorable Minister. Mr. Pankaj Sharma, Mr. Ravi Mahajan, Mr. Anu Solanki, Mr. Subrata Mitra, Mr. Ankit Mukherjee, and last but not the least, Mr. Nirmala Mukherjee himself. Let me again thank you all for making it convenient to come here. Now, when we talk of steel, we are normally dividing it into three categories. One is flat steel, second is our long steel, and third one, which mostly we forget, but which contribute a large in the steel making, that is the PET products. When we call it pipe, electrical steel, and tubes, etc., they also constitute a big segment, and also they are the high value added products, and which are highly in demand in the various sectors. While coming to this long product, we all know that the long products can be divided into four broad categories, and these categories are rebars. Normally, when we talk of long steel, we only restrict ourselves to rebars. But I find that along with rebars, wire rods, structural products, which are very, very important for the construction and infrastructure industry, they also find a, I would say, prominent spot in the list of the long products. maybe they are not that much popular in our country, particularly the universal structures. They are not as much popular in our country as they are in the other countries of the world, and rounds and bars. And last but not the least, the railway products, which constitute a huge portion value-wise of the long steel segment. And when we look at the application of the long steels, they have the numerous applications, like flat steel, which are again having the numerous applications. The long steel are also having the numerous application. Particularly, we have seen the applications of the rebars, but at times we forget that but all applications are there for wire rods. Like when we come to the specialty steel, only then we realize that how important the wire rods are there in the long steel segment. When we talk of the bearing steel wires, tire cords, armored cables, electrode quality, galvanized steel rods, industrial chains, pre-stressed concrete stands, cold heading quality, spring industry, resulfurized steel, then we always remember the this applications of the wire rods. And in structurals, we have the channels, angles, beam, dead sections, joist, and rounds, which normally do not find a place in the list of the long steel, medium carbon steel, chromium alloyed steel, case hardening steel, and the spring steel. So that makes the whole list of the long steel. As I always say, last but not the least, the railway products, which constitute a huge segment in the value-wise in the long steel. Maybe currently the railway products are restricted to only few companies in the country, but that does not undermine the importance of the railway products. And when we come to long steel, we find that for the last few months, the long steel have been going through a rough weather. Now, in the same family where we are having the flat steel, we are having the fat products, and we are having the long products. The long products are facing the rough weather currently, mainly because of the fact that the demand within the country has come down. And generally, the demand for steel has come down in the country, but somehow the flat products, that is the HR, CRC, they have been able to survive. Rather, they have been able to thrive, mainly because of the demand from the other countries. Since long products by nature, they are such they cannot be exported because of their length, because of their weight, they cannot be exported. So mostly they are in demand within the country. And we find that they are also manufactured by the small steel manufacturers. The majority of the long steel is manufactured by the small steel manufacturers. Almost the 40% of such steel is manufactured in the secondary steel segment, and balance is manufactured in the I would say in the integrated steel segment. So they do not have that much of say as the flat product segment is there. And RNL tops the list in the long steel products because it is the only plant in the country which is having 100% long steel products. All other steel plants like Tata Steel, JSW, and JSPL, mainly they are in the flat segment. Yes, JSPL is largely in the long segment, but they are also in the flat segment. And when it comes to sale, 50% is there in the flat segment and 50% is there in the long segment. So sale that way it is evenly poised. Even if when there is problem in the flat segment, because of the long segment, it has been able to survive. But today, those who are having majority of products in the flat segment, naturally they have been thriving and they have been able to make money, which they have never seen in the past. Now, when it comes to that, what are the reasons that today the difference between the flat products and the long products, it has gone as high as say 20,000 rupees per ton. Like I remember last month, the prices of the flat products were at an unpredictable level of 69,500 rupees or 69,000 rupees per ton. I'm talking of ex-Faridabad or ex-Ghaziabad. But when we look at the prices for the long products, they were prevailing somewhere around 49,000 rupees per ton, and that too for the project purposes. Of course, when it comes to retail, they were fetching slightly higher price, but that was the price at which the main producers were selling their flat products, mainly rebars, to the project customers. So this 20,000 rupees gap, this is something unprecedented, and I've never seen in the history of steel industry. I've been associated with the steel industry for the last almost 38 years now. I never saw that the gap had been so huge. I've always been seeing a gap ranging between 4,000 rupees to 5,000, 6,000 rupees maximum. even in the peak of the activity, when the long products were commanding a premium that was between 2006 to 2009, I saw that the long products were having a premium of 5,000 to 6,000 rupees over the flat products. But in today's time, when the flat products are having such a big premium, really we need to look into that what all is required to be done to promote the usage of the long products within the country. When we look at the inventory, most of the producers of the long products or integrated steel plants, they are saddled with the inventory of the long products, mainly rebars, structurals, and also in the wire rod segment. And also that many furnaces have been closed, particularly those who are manufacturing the long products or rebars in Odisha and in Chhattisgarh. They have been closed because they are not able to access the iron ore at reasonable prices. And the prices of the long products, finished long products which are prevailing in the market, they are not able to give them any margin while they buy iron ore from the market at a price of 10,000 rupees per ton, and they also buy the fuel at an exorbitant price. So this all necessitates some sort of introspection that how to have a balanced growth of the steel industry within the country, where the flat products are also making good money, and at the same time, the long products are also not suffering. So if we go by the say product by product analysis under the long steel segment, we find that somehow somewhere is missing in the sense that either we are not able to keep the cost of these items into control, or there is some problem as far as demand is concerned within the country. If we look at the demand for the long products, we find that in the last few months, particularly after onset of corona within the country, that is from April, it started declining, and in the month of June, it declined to a level. Of course, it was not same as we saw in April 2020 or May 2020, but it declined when we compare it with the first quarter of the current calendar year. That is January to March, it declined significantly. And with the June start, with the month of July starting in the second quarter, despite the fact that the monsoon had not been that severe right now, the demand for the long products had not been able to come up. Of course, the one factor which is responsible for known demand for the long products is the spending which is generally happening on the infra and construction that is not there. Many of the projects, they are still stranded. I have been talking with some of the major contractors of the NHAI just as a matter of curiosity to understand that why the consumption of the long products has not been growing in the country, or it has not been there in the other parts of the world also. I came to know that particularly within the country, the expenditure on construction and infrastructure has come down drastically. The contractors, the vendors, the suppliers, they have been facing severe problem of liquidity. State governments have not been able to release their dues in time. So they are not able to going for the large purchases. And also most of the contractors and vendors, they have been expecting further fall in the prices of the long products. This month, everybody is expecting, if last month they bought the long steel, particularly the structurals and the rebars at a price of 49,000 rupees per ton, they are expecting that this month it will come down to a level of 43,000 rupees per ton. So the government, I would say, they have to look into this, and they have to see that how to improve the pace of the infra and construction within the country, because this is one sector which is the major consumer of long steel products in the country. As I said, that long products are not something which can be exported. Of course, now some orders have been flowing in. The other day I was reading in the steel mint that one of the steel companies in the country has booked an order for 25,000 tons of rebar. But that is occasional. I won't say that is a regular feature as it is there for the flat products. And then in our country, like we find that going ahead, as far as challenges are concerned for the long products, that our steel cement ratio, that is also required to be improved. Means we have been talking for the last 10 years that we will be working on it. At least I have been part of this industry at the apex level in SAIL, as Director of Finance. I have been attending many of the meetings, and everywhere I found that the 10 years hence we would see that this ratio, which was in 2011 also, that is 1:3, that the 1 part of steel and 3 parts of cement, that still continues to be almost at the same level. So this means there has not been any improvement in this. And definitely, since there is not much of dearth of space in the country, so we have not yet started going vertical. So that is another reason that the our consumption of the long steel, particularly structurals, is not there to the extent as it would have been there. And large capacity is lying unutilized in the country because of this reason. SAIL put up 2 million tons mills, one at Durgapur. They put up medium structure mill of 1 million ton. They also put up another universal section mill of 0.9 million ton at ISP. Both the mills, they are almost lying idle. They are able to produce and sell only at the rate of 25 to 30%. So country had not got into the habit of getting this universal structures. Even the fabricated structures, they are not there in use to the extent because we have yet not started going vertical. And then, of course, the availability of raw materials for long products has been a big issue for which the matters have to be sorted out at the central level and also at the state level. And I also find that as far as quality consciousness is concerned, that is not there for the flat products. As we see, कि घर बनाना है तो कोई भी सरिया लगा देंगे. We have been seeing many ads, and that is the reality. That is the truth. That we are not very careful that how to choose the right quality of the TMT. Now, I was seeing a video by Shyam Steel. They very rightly mentioned that 500D. Almost, if we make it properly, almost it gives the same UTS to YS ratio as it is given by 550D. But even today, NHI has been insisting on they will use only FE 550D only, and they're not permitting the use of FE 500D. And they should be more concerned with the UTS to YS ratio than giving the name of this FE 500D or 550D. Because of that, many manufacturers, now they are meeting the criteria, they are giving the quality products, they are not able to sell their material in the market. At the same time, the secondary steel producers which are not able to give the quality, I'm not telling everyone, but I'm talking of certain secondary steel producers which are not able to give the quality, they are able to push their material in the market. So just now we were talking about this, whether the secondary refining is required. Yes, I feel if we have to give the controlled phosphorus, controlled silicons, and controlled carbon in the steel, the secondary refining have to be there, not only for rebar making, but also for the other products. Without that, we cannot give the balanced products to the market, which are necessary for the purpose of construction. And these constructions are not going to last 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, or 100 years. They are going to last 300 to 500 years. And we should always keep in mind that if we are not using the quality steel, particularly in the construction sector, it becomes very difficult to replace it. Once we have made the house, we cannot replace the steel without bringing down the entire structure. So the quality consciousness which is there, it is not happening. As I mentioned that the railway products, they are also one of the important segment of the long products. And when we talk of railway segment, we have the products like rails as such, axles, sleepers, and we have the crane wheels and also the wheels. Now just see what is happening in the country as far as railway products are concerned. SAIL was told to put up a facility of 1.2 million ton of universal section mill. They spent a lot of money and they put up that mill. And JSPL was also told that you expand this facility. They also spent a lot of money in expansion. Now they are working on expanding it from 0.6 million ton to 1 million ton. And given SAIL and JSPL taken together, we are like fit enough to meet the entire requirement of rails in the country. But despite that, the rails are getting imported. And also, whatever facility there, which were done at behest of Indian Railway, both the companies are not able to get the orders from the Indian Railway. It was assured that Indian Railway will be able to give orders for at least 2.2 million ton by the turn of the decade, that is 2021. Now we are already in 21-22. And I'm very sorry to share that what is the total quantum of orders which are available from railways. They are less than 1 million ton today. Like you can see 1.2 million ton of capacity of rail making, which was done at the behest of the Indian Railway, that is lying unutilized currently. And at the same time, some head-hardened rail, which JSPL can very well give. Yes, SAIL has not developed that technology yet because of the non-availability of the expert, but those rails are available through JSPL. At least the process can be started for taking up those rails through JSPL, so that we need not have to be dependent on import for such type of products, which for which we have the capability of supplying within the country. And another challenge we face when it comes to the long steel technology, that is that we have not been able to develop the, I would say, this high capacity mills so far. If we want to go in for say 200,000 tons or 300,000 tons of rebar mill, we can very well procure it from the country. But when it comes to going in for 500,000 ton to 0.7 million ton, or say for that matter 1 million ton, not only for rebars but even for structurals, one has to look at the European suppliers or suppliers from outside to go in for this mill. Now, for that, if we really talk of our self-dependence or Atmanirbharta, we have to look forward for developing such capacities within the country. Only then we will be able to see that we need not have to be dependent for this. I won't say that the very large technology is required for putting up any this rolling mill for TMT. Today, you go to, there are many local suppliers available in Ghaziabad or in say Raipur or in Pithampur, those who are able to supply these technologies, but they do not have the resources to make the larger mills. If we can help them, they are also capable of delivering the larger mills, which will help our capability in producing these mills, not only for the domestic purpose, but also for the purpose of exports. So going forward, what I see that the government has a very ambitious plan of putting up the infrastructure and construction in the country. And we all know at least 67% of the steel is consumed in the infrastructure and construction. And majority of the steel is from the long segment. And we know government has a plan of spending at least 50 trillion rupee by the turn of the decade. And that will synchronize with the putting of the additional facilities by the steel sector and enhancing it to 300 million ton. Of course, with the passage of time, I always thought that we will be able to improve our capacities. But the way things are moving now, it appears to be slightly doubtful whether we will be able to reach that level of 300 million ton. But keeping in view the requirement, I think even if we are able to reach a level of 250 million ton of capacity by the turn of the decade, it will be a big achievement. And we will be able to meet the requirement of steel within the country. And also many schemes have been announced from time to time, including this housing for all and the regional connectivity scheme, which will help us in putting up the more airports. And also the step of the government for putting up a national bank for financing infrastructure and development. That is going to help a long way in giving finances for the infrastructure and construction. And also some time back, we discussed about the Steel Finance Corporation for financing the construction of the steel units within the country without depending much on the finances from outside. So that needs to be revived, because if we have to reach a level of 250 million ton by the turn of the decade, then the speed of construction has to be speeded up. Many of the projects which are still lying on the drawing board, they have to be brought out. And we have been discussing that we will be going in for say 12 million ton by POSCO, 12 million ton by JSW, and also by JSPL. They should not remain the, I would say, the intentions or the intents. They should get converted into actual happening, and they should come on the ground in the time to come. And for that, like I find that the industry, the government, and also the state government, central government and the state government, they need to work together to make it a reality. And the challenges which I mentioned with the long steel sector is facing right now, they can be taken away to a large extent, provided there is a willingness from the side of all the sectors, including the central government and the state government. The spending and finances, they have to be augmented. And at the same time, we have to look at the raw materials availability, particularly iron ore, which should be made available to all the units on an equitable basis. I find that I have been there as chairman of the Punjab, Haryana, Delhi Chamber of Commerce also. The problems which comes that the smaller units, they are not able to get the equal or equitable distribution of the raw materials, particularly iron ore. They do not have the capability to compete with the bigger units when it comes to the auction of the iron ore mines, who have to essentially purchase it from the market, or they have to purchase it through the traders. So government has to work out some mechanism that how the iron ore has to be made available to MSMEs units which are operating in the steel sector. I'm quite sure the advancement which has been taking place in the rolling steel technology, this will go to another level. Just now, our friend Mr. Nirmalya Mukherjee, he talked about this industry 4.0. And also he talked about this robotic technology, Internet of Things, or artificial intelligence that is equally applicable to this long steel as it is applicable to the flat steel. Last time also we discussed, but that should not remain limited to the flat steel. It is found that people feel that we need better quality of flat steel, and quality is not that important in the long steel. But minded, those who are really applying it, and those who are making real applications of the long steel, they know how important it is there to have technology in the long steel also. TMT does not mean that you make without any precision and you just put it in the walls. And for that matter, structures also does not mean that whatever type of structures in the name of long steel we have been getting, we should be able to put it. Technology will always remain as important as for long steel as it is there for flat steel. Maybe we are not using it as the auto body sheets, or we are not using it as the electrical steel. But still, the applications which I mentioned for the long steel, they make it very, very important that the technology should be there for long steel manufacturing also. And we have come a long way as far as technology is concerned. Just now, Mr. Sharma talked of this high-speed finishing block. And apart from that, we have already gone into universal rolling of rails and structures. In fact, this lead was taken by SAIL, that they went in for the universal rails, universal rail mill, and also the universal section mill, which is something unique. Somehow, maybe it could not be marketed well. We could not create the market even in the last few 5-6 years. That is the reason that products are not that much in demand. We could not bring the architects and also the structural designers with us. So we have not been able to reach that level. And we find that in this long steel technology, high pressure descaling, it is finding a good importance. And also online dimension measurement, as it is there for the flat steel, it is important for long steel also. Then aerosol cooling beds, some of them we have already implemented in many of the new mills. Then camber control mechanization, bar counting and automatic bending and weighing machine. It is seamless. You need not have to, like it happens in the one process. I've seen it really happening in some of the mills in Japan in 2019. And also, we have seen that how we go in for the energy efficient production of the long products, particularly the continuous mill technology, that is very, very important today. If we have to reduce our energy consumption by 30%, energy consumption comes out by as high as 30% if we are able to go in for the continuous mill technology. And also, we can go in for the all sort of new process design with the help of process modeling. And we can make the all sort of customized products if we are able to adopt this. That is the process technology, we are able to adopt this. And I'm sure it is high time that as we have improved the flat steel technology, we should also concentrate on improvement of the long steel technology. And we should give the same importance as it is there for the flat steel. But one last thing I would like to mention, that we have to always support the smaller units which are working in the long steel. The major steel plants, they have to help them by giving them technology, by giving them hand-holding support, and also by providing them the equipment which they are not able to purchase from the market. Like Rourkela steel plant and also the other steel plants of SAIL, they decided this: if somebody comes to, say, Steel City or the district where the steel plants are located, we will give them all sort of hand-holding. We will provide them the not only the technological support, but we'll also supply them the equipment. Initially, they can make use of those equipment, and once they are able to have the quality products, or once they are able to generate some resources, they can always go in for buying the equipment from the market. So initial hand-holding support will be provided by the SAIL units. In nutshell, the future of this long steel is very bright. The technology has been improving. We have to keep pace with the technology. I'm sure the speakers after me, they will definitely be talking about the latest technologies which are available in long steel making today, and how they can help us to reduce the cost of production of the long steel. Since the prices are coming down faster than the flat steel in the long steel segment, so there is a need that we should be able to bring down the cost of production so that we are able to make some margin. And the time should not come when everybody is looking for the flat steel and nobody wants to go in the long steel segment. That should not happen, because the businessman or a commercial person will always pursue the EBITDA margin, or always pursue the PAT. They are not worried about whether the country's requirement or the consumer requirement is getting fulfilled or not. So that's all from my side. I feel that future of this long steel is very, very bright. The way we have planned our expenditure on various heads under the aegis of the central government, and also state governments are taking active interest, I feel that the demand for steel, particularly long steel, will definitely grow up in the coming time. Particularly, I can see immediately after the monsoon, particularly from mid of September onwards, the demand should definitely improve, and this gap between the this flat and long steel products should come down drastically, and long steel making will be as remunerative as the flat steel making. Thank you very much, Mr. Nirmala Mukherjee, Steel and Metallurgy, for giving me a chance to express my views on this forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chaudhary Sahab. As I was mentioning earlier, someone who covers the entire gamut of subjects. I mean, every challenge that the long product segment goes through, I think Mr. Chaudhary has elaborately covered all of it.
Thank you.
Maybe the speakers who speak after him would not really be able to do any justice further, because he has covered almost all the challenges. Just like, the producers, and he spoke about, the quality of the product, where we need to lend support to the quote unquote earlier known as secondary producers. Now we'll call them the smaller producers. And in fact, I remember when the previous steel minister, Chaudhary Birender Singh, he was a steel minister. Whenever I used to interact with Chaudhary Sahab, Chaudhary Birender Singh, who was the then steel minister, his concept was always focused on bringing up the smaller producers. He would always tell me, whenever I used to meet him, he used to tell me, "Inke baare mein kuch, inko leke." And he started something called a secondary steel sector award. It was an award which was given to these producers. So he spoke of equal footing, where both small and big, whether you are a dada or you are a bhai, you work together. Otherwise, how else will we achieve that 300 million ton? Today, in fact, while I was reading the press releases of Dhaneli, I came across a press release which was on ABS KWR 4.0, which is a wire rod mill that marks the implementation of the Dhaneli Intelligent Plant Design. And it is based on green steel technology. So where everything is automated. So I had sent a mail to Mr. Federico Rochetti, who heads that division. And immediately I got a mail back mentioning that from Dhaneli, India, Mr. Pankaj Sharma would be giving a presentation on this. So I'm sure this will be of interest to all of us. And Chaudhary Sahab, and I think Mr. V.S. Sharma is not here. So maybe Mr. Devashish Majumdar could be able to answer a part of it. And Chaudhary Sahab, if you could also put in your comment. There is a question which has come up. Hi, Samir this side from Ace Cranes. I handle steel procurement of my company. The biggest challenge for the procurement is that long product is that we have no e-portal type of thing available where we can pick and buy long products. Are you guys ready with it or something like that? His question is, are you guys planning to have one? So maybe Mr. Devashish Majumdar, you can talk a little bit of what our good friend Metal Junction does. Metal Junction is a joint venture between SAIL and Tata Steel. So you'll be able to perhaps highlight that Metal Junction provides these solutions. And other than that, I don't think we have any common portal where all the where steel as a generic material could be available for anyone to buy. So maybe first Mr. Chaudhary and then Mr. Majumdar can answer. I think Mr. V.S. Sharma is not here.
I can talk about this. In fact, most of the steel companies, they have already put their own portal and you can always give your inquiry. Even SAIL has also done it, that it goes directly to the company and to distributor, and from distributor it can always be delivered through our dealer. But for him, since it is an industrial unit, for him the right approach is to go to the company, discuss the prices and try to get the best bargain. Because the prices which are given through e-portal, they are always the retail prices. So why industrial unit which has to compete, which has to do the value addition and then compete in the market, why it should go through these portals? The portals are meant for a different purpose. They are there to serve the purpose of the retail customer. And for the large consumers, I feel that one-to-one interaction with the major companies who are having those products. And in steel, there is a very peculiarity there that all the companies are not having all the products. They have their specialization in certain products, and at times they are able to make it, the other times they are not able to make it. For him, the best strategy is not to dependent on the portal, but he should contact the companies individually, try to get the best product at the best possible prices. This is what my suggestion to him based on my experience with the steel company. Though steel companies may not like it, manufacturers may not like it, but since I am replying to him for his benefit, so I feel that will be the right approach to get the best quality at the right price.
Thank you, Chaudhary sir. And anything that Tata Steel would like to add, Mr. Devashish Majumdar? You are muted.
I think, I totally agree with Mr. Anil Chaudhary. Like Tata Steel, I mean, if I am to talk of Tata Steel long products, we are in the high-end alloy steel. Those are also branded. Tata Steel products are also branded, unless it is a customized, like Nestin or some other things which have been customized. It's all, there is no direct portal available for that. And I totally second what Mr. Chaudhary has told. So that's it.
Yes, and if you have noticed, many of the major producers, not many, at least a few, I would say. For example, I can quote ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel, which was earlier Essar Steel. They have their own hypermarts. Then JSW has a concept called JSW Shopping. So similarly, there are retail outlets available. For example, I know for sure ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel, if you go into a hypermart, even if you want to buy one sheet, you can buy it. So whether you are a retail buyer or let's say an institutional consumer, you have the choice of walking into a retail shop. And I think the similar concept is what Tata Steel has started with, something called Steel Junction. I know of a Steel Junction outlet next to my house where I can go in and buy any of the Tata Pravesh products or any of these products right from a Tata Steel outlet.
You are right. Those are customized products. Tata Pravesh, Nestin, and the customized products are through this available.
Yeah, right. So I think, I remember interviewing Sajan Jindal once at his BKC office in Mumbai, where he specifically, Sajanji told me one thing. The problem is we Indians, we still do not know how to use steel. So, we are not educated customers, so to say. As Chaudhary Sahab was mentioning, the steel to cement ratio has not changed over the years. We have not grown vertically. So to say in say tier 2 or tier 3 cities at least. It is only in cities like Mumbai where you see the skyscrapers. Whereas in China, if you come across any tier 1 or tier 2 cities in China, you see skyscrapers all around. So I think we are yet to understand how to use steel, even in rural India. The consumption is still very low in rural India. So these are challenges we have to face. Having said that, now we move on to a very important and a very interesting aspect of today's webinar, which is the analyst's view. So our next speaker is Mr. Jayanta Roy, Senior Vice President and Group Head, Corporate Sector Ratings of ICRA Limited. So as you know, ICRA is known as the Indian Credit Rating Agency. So he'll be able to highlight the analyst's view of how he looks at the long product market segment. And he would be, since he's an independent analyst, he would be able to comment clearly on where the price is going. So that it's going north or south, he'll be able to do his analysis. And of course, followed by Mr. Jayanta Roy is the presentation from Mr. Devashish Majumdar and Mr. Mukund Jha from Tata Steel Long Products. And then we have one more additional analyst today, which is Rohit Sadaka from India Ratings and Research from Fritchco. So we have two analysts today. And before that, we'll request Mr. Jayanta Roy to take over, followed by Tata Steel Long Products. So, Mr. Roy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee. I have a small PPT, a few number of slides. So allow me to share my screen with you.
Yeah, Ankit, if you allow Mr. Roy to share the screen.
Yeah, it's already allowed. You can try to share it.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay, great. Mr. Subrata Mitra, Mr. Ashim Kumar Chaudhary, Mr. Mukherjee, and all my fellow colleagues in the panel and all participants. A very good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, on behalf of ICRA, I would like to thank Steel and Metallurgy for giving me this opportunity to share my views on the long product segment of steel industry with you. I'll have a few very simple basic slides. 1 minute. Yeah. For my presentation today, time is short, so I'll be brief in my comments. As you can see in this slide on the agenda of my presentation, I'll spend a few moments to say a few words on the nuances of long product segment. I'm sure that all of us present here are aware of these facts, but I would still talk about them for setting the context. I'll then briefly talk about the recent trends in costs, prices, and therefore profitability of long producers. And finally, I'll say a few words on the demand outlook of long products. As we all know, long products find application primarily in construction and infrastructure related activities. And these activities depend on to a large extent on the stage of economic development of a nation. Therefore, as the chart on the left-hand side shows, countries like India and China consume a majority of their steel in construction, whereas the share of consumption items like cars and consumer durables is higher for developed economies. Consequently, India's long products had a 54% share in its overall steel consumption basket in 2020-21, as the upper chart on the right-hand side shows. The chart below that shows the share of different technologies in Indian steel making. The induction furnace segment, accounting for close to 27% share, perhaps is used solely for long products by a large number of medium and small sized players. As you can see this slide, the domestic long product consumption growth has been quite unimpressive in recent years, barring a brief period in 2019-20, when it grew by 5%. Now, this unimpressive growth is consistent with a lack of large projects and gross fixed capital formation in the country that we have witnessed in the last few years. And the chart on the right-hand side shows the differential growth rates during the period FY 2016 to last year, 2021, between flat, long, and overall. And as we can see, the low growth rate of long products actually pulled down the overall steel consumption growth rate in this 5-year period. The flat products grew at 5% CAGR, whereas long grew at just 1.4%. And overall, long plus flat put together, steel industry grew by close to 3%. This slide essentially captures the fact that while the flat product segment is quite concentrated, the long product segment actually is significantly more distributed, with the presence of a large number of secondary producers of various sizes, represented in this pie chart by the other category. As you can see, the share of others on the left-hand side, which is for long products, stood at close to 47% in the last fiscal year. Having talked about the market structure and past growth rate, let's now take a look in the cost and prices relevant for the long product players. In this particular section, we'll take a quick peek at the recent price trends for long products. And as has been widely reported, capacity rationalization as well as demand growth in China has led to a sharp rise in international steel prices, including that in India. In fact, Chinese exports have come down further recently, and players have started importing steel into China, even from India, which has provided an impetus to Indian steel prices. Of course, of late, as we can see that there has been a dip both in Chinese steel prices as well as Indian steel prices. That's possibly because prices rose too fast, too soon. Chinese authorities are also not very comfortable with the sharp uptrend in commodity prices, and they have talked about taking various measures to cool down the booming price levels. Maybe that is one reason. One is not very sure whether that is going to have a lasting impact. And in India, as previous speakers also rightly noted, that the ongoing monsoon is not really the period when long product prices would go up, because the demand is soft. Maybe things would improve as the monsoon goes behind us from the onset of the second half. But for that, demand has to pick up, for which we'll talk about a little later. Let's now take a look at the raw material scenario. As we can see, there has been a very sharp price rise in domestic iron ore, along with steel price increases. A deficit in ore availability actually further fueled price levels. As the chart on the right-hand side shows, there is a significant shortage of ore in the market in 2021, and we believe that the smaller secondary players focusing on longs would have suffered from this tightness. In fact, we estimate that there is a deficit close to 55 to 60 million ton in iron ore availability last year in Indian markets. In this slide, I have tried to show the movement of coal, both coking coal and non-coking coal price on the left-hand side and scrap price on the right-hand side. Once again, as you can see, non-coking coal price, essentially which goes into sponge iron, the international prices have actually close to doubled and currently ruling at over $100 per ton level. Scrap prices also has significantly increased and close to doubled in the last 1 year's time. Very interesting to note the trend in coking coal prices. We are talking about, let's say, Australian coal prices during the pandemic season. Till the month of May, prices were quite soft. Coking coal price rise, coking coal price did not really participate in this commodity price boom at all and stayed at a quite low level, which helped various blast furnace producers, particularly in India. This is not so in the case of China, because China did not benefit from low international coking coal costs, because they stopped importing from key suppliers like Australia. However, from the month of June, we have seen that coking coal costs also have increased very sharply. In fact, it has almost doubled and gone well beyond $200 per ton level now. And that impact is going to be felt in the cost structure of domestic blast furnace producers very soon. This shows the contribution level of long steel producers. On the left-hand side, I have tried to capture the secondary long producers, or we are not supposed to say secondary, but let's say the people who are making long steel through a sponge iron route. And on the right-hand side, try to show contribution level for producers who make long products through the blast furnace route. And because coking coal costs were on the lower side, therefore blast furnace operators actually enjoyed a higher margin. Nonetheless, as I said, because now coking coal prices also have participated in the commodity bull run, so we expect that next quarter onwards, because there is always a lag in the system, steel making cost even for blast furnace producers is going to go up, and that would definitely have an impact on the contribution level. Let's now come to the demand side for long steel. And here construction and infrastructure is the key. We believe that the second wave of pandemic has a relatively lower impact than the first wave. The challenges in the previous year naturally was a nationwide lockdown. So steel production in the country in the first quarter of last year, it just crashed by over 80%. There was labor related issues, supply chain disruption, and of course, overall economic slowdown that impacted capex. Government of India tried to help by announcing several measures, which had a limited impact. This year, yes, there have been regional lockdowns, higher COVID incidences, and labor movement curtailment. Nevertheless, construction activities were permitted, labor allowed to stay at work sites, and companies were better prepared. And last but not the least, of course, the ongoing vaccination program, which has till date covered close to 20% of Indian population. Just few macro data points. As you can see, construction activities seems to have recovered, but recovered from a very, very low level. If we see the chart on the left-hand side, upper side, it shows the trend in construction GVA, annual trend, and the growth rate remained at quite anemic level, less than 5%. But currently it is showing a trend, an encouraging trend, which is upward. Now, sustainability of that remains to be seen. We have also seen similar trends in steel production. And let us look at the YOY growth in index of infra or construction goods, which is on the right-hand side, bottom part. It crashed as expected in April 2020 because of the ongoing pandemic. From there, it has recovered. But if we look at the trend line, the yellow line, it stayed almost at flat 0% level till Q4 of last previous fiscal. And only from February onwards, it has started looking up. If we look at the project awarding activity, but remember, this is only project awarding. And as we have heard from eminent previous speakers, the action on the ground possibly has not really been consistent with this project award. But we can clearly see two spikes here in October 20 and in March 21. October 20 was led by railways, whereas March 21 has been led by roadways. So clearly transportation, that is one of the key segments which is in focus, which has led to the rise in project awards. Lot actually is in the pipeline. Clearly, there is a focus on infra development, and for the country's overall economic growth and prosperity, this is the key. We have been talking about large investment in infrastructure for a long time now. But if we see infrastructure investment and share of infra as a percentage of GDP has remained in a narrow band of 5 to 6%, as you can see on the upper side chart on the left-hand side, till 2018-19. This is likely to go up, provided we can actually implement all the projects which are mentioned in the National Infrastructure Pipeline. This trend line is likely to go up to close to 10% in the period fiscal year 2020 to 25. We are already sitting in 2022. So we have possibly lost some ground because of various reasons, as we have discussed in the previous 2 years. So a lot of things need to be actually done in the next 3 years. Quite encouraging is government budget this year, where we have seen a very sharp growth in capex spend. If we look at the left-hand side pie chart on the bottom, we can see that state and center has almost an equal share of close to 40% in this NIP budget of 1.1 trillion rupees. Private sector has a relatively lower share at 20%, but as we understand, I mean, government is fiscally stressed. The focus definitely is on fighting against the COVID, and to that extent, there has been some liquidity crunch among the project contractors. State governments have been known not to release funds in a timely manner, which is actually affecting action on the ground. And that's why I said project awards have shown an improvement, but actually implementation, there seems to be some gap. The chart on the right-hand side, the upper one, shows the large components of this NIP. So transportation, as we have discussed in the previous slide, that's clearly the leader, followed by energy and power, urban infrastructure, irrigation, and so on and so forth. Not everything would be equally steel intensive, I believe. And here are some of the major key items which can lead to significant improvement in long steel demand. I would not read out because it's in front of everybody, and we all know which are the major components which are likely to provide fillip to long product demand. So road, railway, housing, urban infrastructure, airport, port, oil and gas, particularly cross-country pipeline and CGD, and water and irrigation. These are likely to be very, very steel intensive. Now, last but not the least, this holds the key, we believe, for a near-term demand outlook. This shows our weekly progress in vaccination of Indian population. And as we have seen, ideally, we would like to see an upward sloping and increasing trend line, but unfortunately, this shows it almost looks like a sine curve, upward and downward. The week ending, the last week in June shows that we had vaccinated almost 42 million of Indians in 1 week, which translates into a number of roughly 6 million people per day. Now let us look at this projection starting from today. If we actually vaccinate 6 million people per day, we are likely to cover the entire Indian adult population towards the end of this fiscal. If we increase this number 6 to 8 from the second half of the year, we'll achieve the target just a month before the year ends. And if we increase to 8 million doses on an average per day right from now, we are going to cover the distance in January, 2 months ahead of the or before the fiscal year end. But that is the key ultimately, because naturally project implementation and therefore long steel demand in the near term is going to be contingent on how we manage the pandemic going forward. With this, I'll now end my brief PPT and thank you very much for your patience.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Roy. So I just wanted to ask you about the global commodities market, and do you think that we are currently in a bubble when it comes to the commodity prices globally?
Difficult question. Let me just talk about steel, because almost all commodities have shown a rising trend, and different commodities would have different dynamics, demand supply, right? And for steel, we believe a lot depends upon how the Chinese market behaves. We have seen that, yes, there is a focus on capacity curtailment, particularly the less efficient and polluting plants possibly would be closed down. We also understand that there has been an instruction, an order from Chinese authorities that this year's production has to be lower than, or at most would be equal to, last calendar year's production. If that is the case, and if the investment in Chinese infrastructure continues unabated, I mean, every year I see that there are predictions that Chinese steel consumption is going to be flat or going to be marginally down next year. But ultimately, when next year comes, we all see that Chinese production and Chinese consumptions just going leaps and bounds. And when a single country accounts for 50% of both demand and supply, what happens there has a huge impact, huge ripple effect in the rest of the world. And we have seen this. I mean, last year, at least the leading steel companies in first half survived by exporting steel. And we exported even long products and semis to countries like China, which I don't think used to be the case earlier. So that enabled a decent level of capacity utilization for major steel players, which unfortunately was not the case for many other smaller players, and they had to suffer. So coming back to the question regarding the sustainability of these prices, yes, China is one factor. We also know that countries like USA, which is likely to grow at an unprecedented 5 or 6% this year, and they also have announced very big budgets for infrastructure development, which means again all sorts of metals, not only ferrous but even non-ferrous metals would be in demand. Europe demand is also growing. So looking at these things, it seems that yes, price rise at least in the near term is going to stay, and Indian demand, if actually we can make good progress towards achievement of the NIP target, would also be the icing on the cake.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Roy. Do we have any more questions? Any more questions for Mr. Jayanta Roy? Okay, in that case, thank you, Mr. Roy, for such a wonderful presentation, and thank you also for answering my question. And we will now move on to our next speaker, or our next two speakers. We have Mr. Devashish Majumdar, Senior General Manager, Operations and Maintenance, Steel Division, Tata Steel Long Products Limited. And together with him, Mr. Mukund Jha, Divisional Head, Steel Melting Shop, Tata Steel Long Products Limited. So Mr. Majumdar and Mr. Jha, if you could please tell us a little bit about Tata's Tata Steel Long Products Division, and move forward with your presentation.
Yeah, so Ankit, we also would request you to give us the sheets, screen sharing. We have some slides.
It is already enabled.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. And thanks to Steel and Metallurgy for giving us this opportunity. And at the outset, respected Mr. Chaudhary, Mr. Sharma, Mr. Mitra, Mr. Mukherjee, and all fellow panelists, it's a pleasure to be amongst you. Talking a bit about Tata Steel Long Products. Tata Steel Long Products, Tata Steel had taken over erstwhile Usha Martin, which was an alloy steel manufacturer, in the year 2019. And it was taken over through Tata Sponge Iron Limited. And Tata Steel Long Product is an amalgamation of Tata Sponge Iron and Usha Martin. So we are also a part of the long product fraternity, but we are at a different end of that. We are, we are into the niche product. But having said that, the problems of the long product sector, which has already been discussed at length by our eminent panelists before me, they are also pertaining to us. We are also affected similarly. And since we are into niche segments wherein, the implications are much higher. So we are also, I will say, hit to a greater extent by the abnormalities of the sector. Now, what we have taken is some broader aspect, because all the eminent panelists have already discussed about the long products and how the long product is today, how it is growing. And it's a very good picture which has been shown that with the construction boom happening in the country, supported by the government, the long products also have to grow, will grow rather. But then the main, the main challenge comes the sustainability, keeping the production sustainable in the present, wherein there is a lot of disruption by way of newer technologies coming, and then the environment is a big challenge. Then we had this challenge of COVID, which has shaken the entire world. So in that, how to make the steel industry per se sustainable. So it is applicable to both flat and long products, but I will try to stick, both of us will try to stick to the long product segments. Next slide, please, Mukund. Yeah, so we will be talking a bit about the macro economy. Most of it has already been covered by Mr. Roy. So I will quickly go through that. And then I'll talk a bit on the mega trends. I mean, trends which have come, which the world has faced by good, bad, and what are the opportunities and risks. Then look at the steel demand, like there is a lot of concern. So I will, based on the different outlooks, we'll try to paste a good picture going ahead. Next, coming to the main thing, future proofing of the steel. Here we will deal with the new technologies which need to be done basically for growing towards the clean steel and green steel phenomena, which is the need of the hour, which the Western world has already advanced. We in India are very much committed, and we have started taking baby steps towards that. The major, the major plants like JSW, SAIL, Tata Steel, JSPL, they have already started the process. The others also need to follow suit. And then we will give the roadmap. That is what I was saying, roadmap of the low carbon steel. And finally, the risks and challenges of this. Yeah, so coming to the macroeconomic slide. See, if we see the global economic power is going to shift from, the G7 countries economies to the developing economies. Now, if you see the left hand, I mean, the GDP growth, E7 economies will remain to grow at 3.5% per annum from 2016 to 2050. If we see the left hand side, up to 2016, the difference was, it was 31 to 37%, but going ahead by 2050, it's going to double. I mean, G7 emerging economies are going to be the major. And if you see the right side, you can see the spreads, the way it is increasing. Next slide, please. Going ahead in this growth story, the Asian economies, they are going to driving the growth there, and India is going to play a major part of this. If we look at the first slide, you can see that in the up to going ahead from 2023 to 2030, as per this is all as per the forecast. If you look at the forecast, the emerging economies will form a major share of the growth compared to the already developed economies. And here India which is expected to grow at 5.5 to 6% with an upside potential of 7%. It's going to play a stellar role in that. In fact, India is currently the third place after US and China, and it is projected to take US by 2040 BP terms. And the major increase in consumption will be dividing by the spurging middle class, then a lot of developments, metros, emerging towns, and several other host of initiatives which have been taken by the government. Next slide, Mukund. Here, now here if you see, like India will be the fastest growing economy till 2050. Like most of the growth will happen in India, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. And if you look at the spread, I mean, when we are talking of fastest growing means nearly greater than 5% or 5% or more. In India is the leader in that. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now we coming to the mega trends and opportunities and the risks involved. Now here, this slide deals with the mega trends which are going to happen in the world, which have already started, some of them going to happen, its impact on the changing business philosophies, and finally the implications on the Indian steel industry. Now, if I'm to talk of some of the mega trends, like there are a host of that, I did not read them, but if I am to single out something like resource scarcity and price volatility is a trend, then shift in global economic power from west to east. This is a critical thing. And some of my predecessors have already of industry 4.0 to 5.0, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. This has already entered in the Western world. In our country, it is also entering in a big way. Climate change, India is part of a climate change, future of mobility. And last but not the least, and the most important, the decarbonization, the carbon footprint. As earlier, Mr. Sharma and Mr. Chaudhary has very rightly pointed out, we just cannot. We emit much more carbon for making a ton of steel than that of the Western countries, and we need to come to that levels. Now, if I am to talk of the business philosophies in transport, like we are going towards electrical vehicles, emissions have to be reduced. Then there is a concept of shared mobility, like which had picked up in a big way before the start of the pandemic. You know, like people had stopped purchasing vehicles of their own. They were depending on the Olas and Ubers. Of course, this pandemic has put it back, but I am sure it will again come back. Now, because of this, the impact of the steel industry is the focus has to now shift. We all know for electrical vehicles, the weight of the vehicle for getting the life of the battery has to increase. Even in the present vehicles wherein fuel is used, there is, the steel usage is reducing. Weight of the impact is basically to reduce the weight of the vehicle. And the challenge of the steel industry is we come out with the steel, which helps us in reducing the weight. Then you have, as was told, you have customer-centric platforms, and one has to go to value-added products. Basically, when you are in the commodity sector, just giving a TMT or an angle channel doesn't help. If you are doing some value addition, customizing it, which suits towards the end use of the customer, that is more welcome. Coming to the climate change, we have already talked, like you have to make green steel, carbon emissions have to reduce, renewable energies have to be on the rise. Carbon taxes are big time. Carbon taxes are there in vogue in the Western countries, and it's going to come to our country also for the producers who don't, follow this. What are going to be the impact now? Like, for example, to reduce the carbon, especially for the arc furnace, as was told by Mr. Sharma, as a part of the circular economy. I mean, we have to use more of scrap. We have to come out of the BOFs and all. Most of the greenfield processes have to be mostly on the scrap base, because with the scrappage policy, which the government has already declared, it's also going to enable it. And we have to mature as a nation in scrappage of vehicles, and more so by using more of scrap. And there has to be continual innovation, and one has to take leadership in the technology. Only the days ahead, it is the leaders who are going to prosper. Coming to the digitization has become a reality. It is a big enabler. It is entered into every aspect of our lives, and also the industry. Like, we have a lot of smart things, smartphones, smart vehicles, smart cars, smart gadgets, and and the automation across the plants. We have enough full of automations across the plant. In every plant, for increasing the efficiency, people are going for higher automations. Now here, we have to innovate the business models, basically to facilitate all these things. Rising uncertainties, I will not tell much. We have all gone through this in the last 2 years, how this uncertainties has hit the world. And that leads, these uncertainties have led our country basically to, depending on the others, indigenization, Atmanirbhar Bharat of our Prime Minister. Coming to the last, flexible and agile way of working. Now, the focus has shifted basically, to the workforce. There has been a paradigm shift in the working. Did we ever think that a steel plant could be run working from home? I mean, in this pandemic days, all of us know in the steel industry that maybe 50% of our workforce was working from home, and we were able to run the plant. So these cultural shifts have made us capable, future ready. Adversity, there is a saying that adversity brings out the best. So this has showed us the way, and now this has become a way of life. We all know, like this meeting, in a normal circumstance, this meeting would have been held in person and all, but all webinars have become such a big hit across the country, across the world. Next. Now coming to the opportunities, what are the opportunities? If I am to talk of basically the macroeconomic opportunities is we have to, there is, as was told by Mr. Roy, that there are several government aided projects which are coming, which is basically to, boost the growth of, so the industry needs to capitalize on that. Environment, I have already talked, going ahead, circular economy, making a cleaner steel, reducing the carbon footprint. These are going to be the order of the day. Technology is going to play. This has already thrown lots of opportunities to us, and it's going to make a big difference in that, in the technology part, like digital, as I have told, then grow new segments. Industry, long product industry is growing through consolidation. We all know that. Going ahead, it is further consolidated, as Mr. Sharma and Mr. Chaudhary has already told, that everybody has to reach to that level. Otherwise, somebody will, as a part of the consolidation, will take over some. This is already happening. We have already seen that. So the risks, I will not go. This has already been, articulated here. And next slide, please, Mukund. Now, if we go to the steel demand, just to give a rosy picture to the house, for example, the world steel use over the years, it has grown by at 3% CAGR. At the first slide, if you see, from 17.7, it has grown to 2039. And if you look at the production also has grown by 3%. But here, if we can, the most striking thing is that bulk of the rise has happened in the Asian region. And if it goes by this, by FY 30, it's going to 1130 to 1150. And coming to the steel production in India, considering a 5% growth, by 2030, this is again the prediction which is coming, puts it at 180 to 185 or maybe 200. But then when I said that, I am mindful of the fact that the vision of our country is going to 300. All efforts will be there towards that. And if we go to the Indian finished steel demand, there is more or less, if you see, slight difference between the long and steel. Slightly long steels are having an edge. Next slide, please, Mukund. Now, here is basically the long product demand, how it's going to increase product-wise and segment-wise. In both the areas, we see if you look at the product-wise, it is the wire rods and rebars, which is more than 50%, at which it will grow. From FY 20 to FY 30, it will grow to around 88 billion ton. Out of that, more than 50% will be longs, that is rebars and bars. And if I go to the segment-wise, again, as has already been told by my predecessors, construction is going to be the major chunk of this. This has already been discussed earlier. Next slide, please. Now, this pandemic, in fact, has created, a lot of opportunities have come, adversities. Because of the adversities, there were several growth boosters were announced by the government. And by virtue of that, we all know India is slated to become a global hub for sourcing and manufacturing in different fields like digital, healthcare, and tourism. And to facilitate this, there are certain enablers like financial services, automation, there is logistics across the gamut, the support is there. And there are new ways of living. India, by way of becoming towards a developed country, we are having smart cities, economies, share, model retail, climate change, digital is coming in a big way. All this, will lead to, these are again projected numbers, like in 2021, the growth will be 10%, and then it's going to be 6 to 7% till 2030, just a projection. And what we are seeing, if I come to the last slide, we are going to see the employment generation is going to shift from the agriculture, which used to be now, it is going to shift to the construction, manufacturing industries primarily. The bulk of increase of employment generation is having to be in these sectors. And the growth also, the growth engine of the country also is going to be driven in these sectors. 'Next slide, please. So same, I will not dwell on this because Mr. Roy had already articulated on this slide. It's just a repetition. So here again, we can see the long product, maximum of it will be in the construction sector. And there are a lot of demand drivers by the government, which has already been taken. Now it is up to the industry and the government to work in unison, and then capitalize on this. Next. Now coming to the name future proofing, like if I am to talk of from what has happened from the experiences grain, there are going to be the three main drivers or strands for the future of the steel industry per se, and of course the long products also, like sustainable operations. Basically the whole world is moving, we also need to move towards clean steel, low carbon steel, that is basically reduction of carbon footprint. Then we have to move towards a data-driven culture, both through in operations, in business, and digitalization is going to be a major enabler in that. And then, building on your workforce, because we have seen in this pandemic that workforce is very important. Keeping them in high humor, training them and all is very important for them, for the growth of the organization. And these are the three important levers which we have identified, and in this we will discuss on the first one. And for going into the details, I will now request my colleague Mr. Mukunja to take over from here. And once again, I thank Steel and Metallurgy for giving us this opportunity. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Majumdar, and good evening to all panel members. I am Mukund from Tata Steel Long Products. So before I start, I just want to add one point which Mr. Majumdar said on Tata Steel Long Products. So this company was envisaged by the Tata company, Tata Group chairman. If you heard about the interview, this will be the key driver for all development in long products. In fact, all new portfolio, all expansion in the long products will be through this driver only. So like in the last AGM meeting, our chairman said that Tata Steel Long Products has a vision to reach to 10 million ton by 2025 or 2028. So that is why this name, this company was created, just to have a focus on long products. So with this, so I will be discussing on this roadmap for low carbon, because as in Tata, we always discuss on sustainable steel or the roadmap for next 50 years. So the entire company is thinking on this direction only. So why the need of low carbon steel today? So you can see, like everyone said in the earlier discussion, the drive is from all aspects, from all four dimensions. Like customer, they also demanding that, like in our case, we make steel for automobile, and our OEMs are also defining that the steel should be made through arc furnace, or maybe it should be free from carbon CO2 emission. So those are customer driving. In case of technology, we also know there's a very good amount of development happening in the hydrogen-based steel making. In fact, recently POSCO has announced that they have successfully tried hydrogen blast furnace. So and the third pillar which we see, the investment cycle. Like if you decide any investment, which normally takes 10 to 15 years, and we know after 15 years, this sustainable steel will be one of the bigger subjects which will be widely used. And the fourth, the last but not the least, is the regulation part. Like we know in all European countries or US countries already CO2, cost of CO2 abatement and etc. there. So that will also come to India maybe after 10 or 15 years. So that will drive this carbon-free steel. So based on this, we have selected, these are the popular technology which is available. A steel sector can leverage these technologies. These are widely known, and like number one, blast furnace route and arc furnace route, those are already being used in across the country, across the globe, and we know the results. Right now the developed country, they are trying for the option number 3, 4, 5, 6, out of which you see the option number 4, biomass reduction. Those are mostly popular in South America, South Africa, where we have sufficient amount of forest and other things. They were working on the principle called regenerative renewable forest or regenerative forest. Like last month I was in a seminar with Gerdau Steel. The Gerdau Steel is going in a big way for this regenerative forest, and Wall is following the same thing. On the fifth part, like DRI and arc furnace route with using hydrogen, that is, I think Tata is focusing on this route mostly because this seems to be more sustainable and this can meet our aim. Like our chairman in the last AGM said, we want to be carbon neutral by 2050. So if you want to achieve that, we have to invest on this hydrogen-based technology. So that is why we selected. So why we have selected this arc furnace technology for further expansion? You see, from the all three area like sustainability, raw material security, and capex and operations. In all the three aspects, this arc furnace is better than BF route because they have low carbon emission and the energy requirement is lower as compared to BF route. Of course, we also know that the iron ore resources are limited. Today also we are facing scarcity of iron ore. So that will further drive this use of scrap. And just to support this arc furnace concept, we have also started this SRB business, which is scrap recycling business, kind of circular economy. And this will come by 2025. This will come into full phase with a capacity of 5 million ton. And the concept behind this arc furnace SRB, we say minimal concept. The concept behind this was like wherever the scrap is available in the NCR region or all the metro, the SRB will be there and followed by one mini mills. We can process those scrap and will convert to TMT or rebars, and that can be sold to similar region where all construction and infra is growing. So that is how the development strategy had been made. Also, if you see what is driving this arc furnace technology, the CO2 emission is lower, the energy consumptions are lower, and the pollution is lower. In the arc furnace, what technology we are going to adopt? That are these are the more four technology where we are working with our technology partner, like scrap plating, continuous charging of scrap, hot charging, endless casting, you say, and digital integration. So on this four technology innovation, we are working with all our technology partner, and this will help us in getting our desired result of CO2-free steel, carbon-free steel. So after this, but of course, there is some challenge. Like we are talking about hydrogen-based steel making, but we all know there are many challenges in India right now for getting hydrogen at cheaper price, at economical price. And in long periods, we have to compete with the secondary steel makers where where everything is played in cost per ton basis. So there will be challenges in hydrogen, which we are working with our technology partner how to overcome. So that is all from our side. Thank you very much for listening. Yeah, if you have any query, we can discuss.
Yeah, thank you very much. So do we have any questions for Mr. Devashish Majumdar or Mr. Mukund Jha?
Ankit, I have a question.
Yes. Yes, Shubhrata, go ahead.
Question from Mr. Jha. Of course, I could understand, but Mr. Jha, it's not to qualify that. I think the correct word, low carbon, is a grade of steel. So when you say low carbon steel, we are practicing like low carbon, high carbon, these are grades of steel. I think you meant lower carbon emission steel, isn't it?
Right.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So there should not be any confusion. Low carbon tends towards auto grade, lower carbon emissions.
I know that
Yes.
your point is very well taken, and thanks for pointing out. Yeah, our aim was basically stressing on that, lower emission, low carbon emission towards the step towards sustainability. Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on now, our next speaker who was supposed to join us was Mr. Kamal Agarwal, Honorary Secretary General of All India Induction Furnaces Association. However, unfortunately, he's not well and he had to be admitted to the hospital urgently. So he will not be able to join us today, and we all wish him a speedy recovery. And so we will now move on to the next speaker, Mr. Rohit Sadaka. He is the Director Corporates of Indian Ratings and Research, a part of Fitch Group. So yeah, again, we have another analytic perspective. And of course, Indian Ratings and Research is famous for doing analytics on the credit market. So it would be a very interesting insight for all of us in the steel industry. Please,
Thanks.
over to you,
Thanks.
Mr. Talaka.
Thanks, Ankit, and good evening, everyone. I'll be just sharing my screen for a small presentation. Just hold on. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, we can see. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Thanks. So good evening, everyone. So without maybe wasting much of time, because we have a very small time window which has been provided. So I'll just move on. So what I will be covering today is the demand supply scenario for the steel sector and how the import export has evolved, especially in the last 1 year, and what we expect going forward. And then maybe talk a little bit on the raw material steel prices and the margin outlook, how we see the steel spreads will be behaving in the near future. So to start with the demand supply, as I think we have been hearing with the eminent speakers, that China is something which we could not ignore while talking about how the steel industry will be behaving even in India, because almost 50% of consumption and production is controlled by China. The interesting part is, if you look at the bottom left chart, we have seen that over the last 5 years, China has been reducing their export despite increase in their production. This depicts that China has been looking inward. They have been consuming more and more steel in the domestic requirement, and they have been reducing their export to the global market. And if you look at the demand expectation in 2020, which was one of the worst year in steel industry, if we talk about on the volume side, there has been a degrowth in most of the economies, but China was one economy which has grown by almost around 9%, which is unheard of, and it's a very high. If you look at the base of around 950 million ton of steel consumption, 9% is a very huge number. So that has resulted into the kind of the price surges which we have seen in 2020 calendar year or 2021 financial year. But going forward, even though the China growth is expected to slow down, but there are the other economies which have kind of reported a negative growth in the steel consumption. They are likely to grow in 2021 calendar year or 22 maybe financial year. So now just moving on. If we look at the steel consumption in India, so we have, if we look at the COVID impact, so in last year during the month of May, April, May, June, when the lockdown was there, the steel consumption has suddenly dropped from close to 7-8 million ton to less than 1 million ton in the month of April. But with the in May and June, it has picked up largely with the opening up of, say, construction activities or some kind of relaxation which has been provided. In the second wave, though the consumption has come down in the month of April, it was not that severe because it was largely a partial lockdown, and there have been lots of relaxation. So which I think some of the speakers have already spoken about. There was no reverse migration of labor, construction activities were allowed. So all those things have helped the consumption of steel in the first half of 2021. So we have not seen any demand issue in 21-22. If we talk about the different sectors which are there and which contributes to the steel consumption. So largely, if you look at the real estate, manufacturing, and other construction activities, those are the sectors which which contributes to GFCF, and they have been the key driver of the steel consumption in India. So if you look at those sectors, they have been doing well, and we expect that real estate and construction would be driving the steel demand going forward. So these are some of the projects which I think some of these speakers have already spoken, so I will not go into it. In the infrastructure side, real estate and other projects which will be driving the demand for steel, and especially the long steel. If we talk about the construction and infrastructure, it is largely long steel which has been which are consumed in the sector. So this is again some of the housing and infrastructure drivers. So if you look at the affordable housing, even though construction activities has slowed down in FY20 and 21, but there are large number of the units which has been sanctioned but not executed. So now it is on the execution how fast the industry can execute those the target numbers would drive the steel demand. Similarly, in the highway projects and other things, if the execution has been there and the award of the highway projects have also been on an increasing trend in the last couple of years. So we expect these drivers to drive the steel demand going forward. Looking at the capacity utilization, as some of these speakers have already spoken, if you look at the overall steel capacity utilization, it is close to 70% in 21, because some of the small or mid-sized steel players, they have not been able to take the impact of COVID because of the liquidity issues or raw material availability or the labor issues. They have been, they were supposed to, they remained closed, or they have to operate at a very low utilization. So those were the impacts on some of the steel players, which we largely assume would be coming back in 22, with most of the issues are getting addressed now. Companies are becoming used to the kind of environment in which they have to operate and other things. Liquidity has also been supported by the government infusion of fund or emergency loan and other things. So we expect that capacity utilization will grow. Now looking at the consolidation, as there has been discussion on consolidation. So if you look at the flat segment, the almost 75 to 80% or 77% of the steel production is in the hand of maybe top 6 players. Whereas if we look at the long products, it is close to 35% and 60-65% is in the hands of small players or the mid-sized players, and it is a very fragmented industry. So we have not seen too much of consolidation over the last 10 years in the long product segment, whereas in the flat product segment, it has almost doubled the capacity in the hands of say top 6 players by volume. Going forward, we assume some kind of consolidation in long products also is expected with the weak or the cost inefficient plants getting shut down, or they're not able to run their operation. So we would see some amount of consolidation going forward. Now, moving on to the trade trends or the export, how we see the Indian export of steel going forward. So if you look at the trend over the last, say, 24 months, largely we would see that flat products have been the majority of the proportion of the total export from India, barring maybe a couple of 3-4 months, which is last year, May, June, July. We have seen that there has been an increase in the export of long products as well as semis. Semis were largely constituted of pellets as well as the billet, which is used in making the long product. So there has been a surge in the export of long products also, but that has not stayed for a longer period of time, and the proportion has come down. Again, in the last 3 months, we have seen suddenly the export have increased with the slowdown in the domestic consumption. So this shows that if there is enough demand in the domestic market, largely the Indian steel products, especially the long products, since there's a difficulty, logistic issues, the infrastructure issues in exporting the long products, they will be largely consumed into in the domestic market, or maybe some neighboring countries like maybe Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh. So those are the few countries where we can see some exports going forward. But the flat products are the compromise of maximum export which we have seen from India. And this is what I was talking in the first slide also. The China production has been growing, but at the same time, the export has come down and imports have increased. This includes all the semi products imports also. So this shows that China will not be a key supplier to the global market, and that is the reason why US has also come up with an expansion plan, which was after a long period of time. India will also see good opportunity maybe in the export market also. With China not being there. And also, if you look at the China economy, they have been incentivizing the Chinese steel players by removing 13% VAT rebate, which they were giving on the export of steel from 1st of May this year. And now they are also talking about imposing of export duty on the steel products. So this shows that China is looks like it is they are serious in controlling the production. They have cut down on the steel capacity, but the production was on the increasing trend. But now with disincentivizing the export by way of removal of VAT rebate and imposing export duty, we expect that the China production will come down to the extent of the consumption requirement in the country, and they have taking serious steps to control the production in order to have a control on the carbon emission. So those will be the key monitorables which we have to kind of keep monitoring month on month to see how the Indian steel industry will be impacted. Finally, moving on to the raw material side, if we look, as we all know that 2021, there was a dip in the production of iron ore, especially driven by the lower production or mining in the Odisha state because of the auction of mines in the month of March 2020, which could not ramp up their production in the first half of 2021. So that has resulted into short supply of iron ore, and it has impacted largely these small to mid-sized players who are not integrated, and they were dependent on the merchant miners, and that resulted into a spike in the iron ore prices. However, the steel prices were also increasing last year till the last quarter. So they have been able to pass on, and their spreads have been on an increasing trend. So this is the kind of reduction which we have seen, or the deficit we have seen in the iron ore production in 2021, around 23% drop in, or maybe close to 35 million ton of lower iron ore production in the month of in the state of Odisha. So that has led to a spike in the iron ore prices. Globally, also iron ore prices were on an increasing trend because of the short supply, because of COVID impact and the issues, geopolitical issues in Australia and between Australia and China. So those things have led to a surge in the iron ore prices. Now, maybe looking at the other raw material price, which is coking coal, we have seen that has remained at a very low levels of close to $120 for the most of the last year because of the issues between China and Australia, and Chinese steel mills were not procuring coking coal from Australia. But in the current financial year, from the month of April, May, we have seen that the prices have started surging. There are a couple of reasons. The demand from ex-China, maybe India, Japan, and other countries, steel-making countries, there have been on an increasing trend, and also the logistic issues and the freight issues in the availability of shipping and other things. Those have led to a surge in the price, and now the price is close to $200 per ton. So what this will result into, if we look into the prices have been on an increasing trend, and the difference between HRC and rebar prices, which I think Mr. Sharma was talking earlier during the webinar, that has now it has been widening, and the reason is HRC is still holding their price because of the export price, or the price prevailing in China or in the export market for HRC is still higher as compared to the domestic prices, and that is being one of the reason why we believe that HRC prices have been on a higher level as compared to rebar, where the domestic consumption has kind of slowed down during the first quarter. And now with monsoon, we expect maybe a second quarter also, we don't see a surge in the price, as the construction activity will be limited, and this has been the general trend or the seasonal trend which we have seen historically. So maybe only in the second half, with the construction activity picking up and the infra spending taking a pace, we believe that the long product demand will increase, and maybe that will result into a recovery in the rebar price going forward. So now, if maybe on the profitability side, if we see the long product profitability, that is a difference between the gross margin, if we can say that has taken a nosedive in the first quarter, especially because of the lower prices, as well as the raw material prices have been surging or remaining at an elevated level. Both iron ore as well as the coal prices have increased. That has resulted into squeeze in the profitability, more for the long product players than the flat product. So now looking at this, maybe the key I believe is since the raw material prices and the finished goods prices are not under the control of any steel mills, the cost efficiency will be the mantra going forward, and the companies would be able to reduce their cost of production by using technology, upgrading their technology, and increasing their product efficiencies. Those will be the players who would be able to sustain in the competitive market, and that would be a key going forward. Similarly, if you look at the conversion cost or the conversion margin between billet to TMT and wire rod, that has been on a declining trend in the last couple of months. So yeah, that's it from my side. Any question, have to take that. Ankit, over.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sadaka. Do we have any questions for Mr. Rohit Sadaka? Okay, so in that case, I have a question for you, Mr. Rohit Sadaka. You mentioned about that it is expected that the China steel production is going to dip in the coming months, and actually we are also getting reports that it could go down to as low as 30% production. However, this has created a demand for import of billets from other countries into China. Especially China has also started buying billets from Vietnam. So how do you think that is going to impact the long product market in general? Because when they are importing billets, the idea is that they can continue to roll long products and simultaneously reduce the liquid steel production. So
right.
What do you think will be the impact of that on the global long product market?
Right. So as we know, China has been targeting reduction in the carbon emission. So that is a key reason why they are looking at reducing the liquid steel production. So if they import billet and roll it, that will not be a impact on the environment, or the carbon emission will be on the lower side. So that what it will lead to is maybe the demand for billet in the export market increasing, and the prices for billet will go up. And as we know, billet to TMT maintains a conversion margin largely in the range of maybe 3,000 to 4,000 or 5,000 rupees. So that kind of margin will always be there. So for a company or a steel mill who has been a backward integrated, and they have a full integration from, say, sponge iron, or even if they have a mines, they will be the players who will be on a who will be gaining from this price increase if it happens. But for the mid or small size players who are just a converter, they are buying billet, converting into rolled product, or maybe buying sponge iron, pig iron, or is using a scrap route. Maybe they will not benefit that much as the integrated primary steel producer will benefit. But this will lead to a surge in the steel prices if the demand for billets will be continuously on an increasing trend, and China decides to import more of billet and reduce the import of coal and iron ore for making the liquid steel.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sadaka. Does anyone else wants to add to that?
Yeah,
Or
Mr. Anil.
Yeah, Chaudhary uncle.
Yes. Mr. Sadaka, this may give some temporary relief to the domestic producers, because domestic demand is very, very weak today. And every major producer is sitting on the large inventory of TMT. I have been told inventory of TMT has gone up by 200,000 tons across the companies in the last month. So, but ultimately, now the fact remains we have to work on improving the domestic demand. We cannot rely on the crutches of China for all the time to come. Now, China is such an unpredictable country. You never know how they will behave in the coming time. And what will happen in the month of August, you are not very sure. They may book the order for July and delivery in August. After that, they may like to increase their production, because their policies are changing so fast. If you see on 26th May, nobody thought that the steel prices will remain at the level at which they were. And 27th, now they took a decision that the prices are reasonable, they are natural, and there is no change to have the policy interference. And the steel prices again started going up. The iron ore prices, which had come down to a level of $180 per ton, they again climbed up to a level of $222 per ton. So it is such an unpredictable thing. But we feel that we should try to work out the demand in the domestic market, and we should increase our spending on the infrastructure construction. Unless the domestic demand goes up, it will be very difficult to sustain on the crutches of China.
Right, sir. So, right, that is what I think I covered in my presentation also, sir, that during the lockdown period, especially in the last year, April, May, June, we have seen there is a surge in the export of long products also. But as and when the economy, the Indian economy opened up, or the business started opening up, the export of long product has started coming down. So that was a trend. So as and when we will see that the consumption in India is on the lower side, we believe that the export will increase, because still as on date, if you see the prices, there's a premium. If you import, the imported price are at a premium than the domestic price. But if the demand is there, I think the products are getting consumed in domestically largely, and we have not seen any import coming into India as of now. So that will be always there. This is a balancing act which will be there.
Today, the price of TMT has come down to a level of 45,000 for projects. And 45,000, nobody is willing to buy. Today, the end consumers, they are looking for a price of 43,000, 42,000 rupees per ton. Likewise, for HR coil, of course, the domestic producers have reduced the prices, and they are willing to come down to a level of 68, 67,000. But the market expectation is it should not be more than 62,000 rupees per ton. So the kind of, and domestic producers have also to understand that it is not like this, that they will be able to increase the prices every month on the back of demand from China, or on the back of demand from Europe. We should appreciate that there is very limited quantity which can be exported to Europe. There is again limitation on export to China and other countries in Asia. So we should appreciate that, and instead of profiteering, we should get into the right mode, and we should try to deliver at a price which is acceptable or which is sustainable for the domestic industry. Only then it will be the survival of all. As it happened last month, all end consumers, they gave up. They said they will not purchase steel. They will not purchase steel for some time, whether it is traders and consumers, or even the big vendors, contractors. They purchase very limited quantities. So if the same scenario remains in July, then the survival for the steel producers will also be. They cannot keep on increasing the prices and expect that the end consumer or the consumer of steel will be able to bear it. After all, like energy contract, they are not able to increase the prices. That's why Mr. Gadkari has been crying. They are all going to the door of Mr. Gadkari and telling him that what they should do. Cement companies and steel companies, they are increasing the prices like anything. And Mr. Gadkari is coming back and venting his entire array on the steel producers and cement producers.
Right, absolutely right. Thank you, sir. Thanks for your insight.
Thank you, Chaudhary Sahab, and thank you, Mr. Sadaka.
Thank you.
That was really an interesting presentation from your end. And, let us be fair, as of today, because of the super cycle, commodity super cycle, things are a little different. But anyway, I think in course of time, this will, obviously, you have seen a little softening of the prices. And I think one of your slides also mentioned how the coking coal prices and the raw material prices have also caused havoc. So these are balancing factors which we have to keep in mind. But then, as Chaudhary Sahab mentioned, if this trend continues, it is not very good for the consumers, not for the economy. Right. So it has to be somewhere in a position where it's a win-win for everyone. So with that, we'll move on to our presentation, which I was eagerly waiting to hear what Danelli has to say about ABS QWR 4.0. That's a state-of-the-art technology for wire rod mills. So I think Mr. Pankaj Sharma will be able to throw some light on it. In fact, I would like to thank Danelli for all the support that they have extended to us over the years, right from Mr. Benedetti to all the executive vice presidents, and my good friend, Mr. Gajendra Panwar, who's the managing director of Dhaneli India. So all of them have supported our webinars right from the beginning, and my special thanks to them. And of course, I must thank Mr. Federico Rochetti, who nominated Pankaj for today's webinar. Mr. Federico Rochetti is the Vice President of Dhaneli in Italy, and he sent a mail to me mentioning that our colleague Pankaj will be the speaker presenting our ABS PWR 4.0. So Pankaj, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nirmala sir, and very good evening to all senior panelists present in here. And also, I would again like to thank everybody to giving this opportunity. Yes, you said very well, Mr. Nirmala, that Mr. Rochetti Federico was somewhere involved in something else. So he nominated me and requested me to present our QWR ABS technology, basically about the scenario of that new latest highly technical advanced mill. And as right now here in the presentation, all our senior panelists and from our colleague presentation presentator, that the main focus in the today's is on the automation automation of the any rolling mill, any steel plant. Why this need is coming? For taking example, in the phase of this pandemic, the first impact and first problem what the industries faces is the shortage of manpower during this pandemic things, shortage of labor. Then there is a need arises for the automation, basically or more mechanization of the mills, more automation and more automated process, basically, so that every industry, every organization can shorten their dependency on the labor and manpower. But that doesn't mean that the advanced technology like automation, further automized in factories and other things reduce the requirement of manpower. No, that ultimately increase the requirement of skilled manpower, basically. So in line to this, it becomes in today's phase, it becomes the responsibility of technology supplier like Dhaneli to present that product in the market which can fulfill this type of requirement and solution for more mechanized and automized factories and products which can be reduce the human effort in the factories and increase the efficiency of the factories, increase the production and other things. So in line to this, Dhaneli has developed and first plant they have introduced with the Industry 4.0. I just sharing the screen with you. Just to give me a second, sir. Yeah, just a minute, sir. Can you see the screen, sir?
Yes, it is visible. Yeah.
So Dhaneli actually, before putting any product in the market, we develop in our plant, it is ABS Italy, and we erected and commissioned this mill, which is a highly technologically advanced and equipped with the Industry 4.0 full automated mill. It is a 0.4 MTPA, 450,000 ton wire rod mill for the special quality bars. We set it QWR 4.0 at our ABS Italy plant. QWR stands for the quality wire rod with the Industry 4.0. In line to this, basically, just a minute. I will initially I will start with how the concept of the plant and what is the basic input and design concept for this plant, and then I will go with the benefits and other things what we have done in terms of fully automation of this mill, that I will go in another slides. First of all, this plant is targeted for a capacity of 450,000 tons per annum with the 130 ton per hour capacity hourly. This plant is covering all special steel quality in the form of wire rod. This is high carbon alloyed steel, cold heading steel, spring steel, and bearing steel, sir. And starting from the various flexible billets from 160, 170, 180, and this plant is producing the wire rod from 5.0 to 25 mm. Certainly, certainly up to previous wire rod mills, the maximum bar size in the or maximum rounds in the wire rod was 20. So now we have taken here on the next level. We can form now the wire rod in the size of 22 also and 25 mm also. Sir. Usually 25 previously we done in a standard way from the garret coiler, but right now at the higher productivity and higher speed we can do from the wire rod mills also. Sir. That give a higher finish on the product and higher quality of the bar in terms of metallurgical process and other things. And the speed we are achieving here, the 110 meter per second, which is also a very record speed. Still, this here we have a plan in future to go it up to or above 125 meter per second with the phase wise. Going in the basic concept and arrangement of the layout for with this mill, it has a reheating furnace which has a power. And the combination of stands, which are generally star housingless stands, and covering complete mill in the group of, and then we have a latest design wire rod blocks, which are which are arranged in the pre-finishing block and then fully automatic finishing block. And these are all multi-driven, multi-drive finishing blocks. In the previous, or you can say, couple of years back, you can say the blocks were mono drives. Now we have introduced in the market this multi-drive solution, which give a benefit of lower power consumptions and better efficiency and better rolling control on the bars. So along with this, we have introduced the online water treatment in the mill itself. And here we have in the mill the low temperature rolling, which give another quality benefit on the structure, microstructure of the bars. And after that coil forming area, there will be loop forming. And then before the loop forming, there is a twin module block, basically to make the tight tolerances on the bar online while rolling, not the offline. While rolling itself, we have introduced the control of the tolerances on the bar with the help of twin module block. And all the machines are with quick changing system and other thing. Here, there's a one matter, we can introduce a high level of automation, high level of sensors, high level of computerized system. But along with that, the mechanical equipment also should be capable to and cope up with should be capable to cope up with the high level automation and controls. So here all the equipments are mechanical equipments are ready to manage and very well work in coordination with the Industry 4.0 level automation and artificial intelligence or other things. And going further way, here we have online heat treatment system also in this line, so that offline working and offline handling of the products is avoided here, and every heat treatment is done online, whether it is online quenching in the boiling water, or whether it is online heat treatment by the force cooling. And then we have a latest implementation of equipment here from our Sun Brista company for the coil handling. The coil handling in such a way that it is initially handled vertically, and then it goes to the horizontal position, and then goes to the storage, fully automated without any man intervention. Going further on the what are the benefits we are getting by implementing this latest technology of Industry 4.0 is and the mill is running on the artificial intelligence, collecting the data and other things. The first thing we are here doing that we get a single pass family concept for the entire product range, which give a less time changing within the less time we can change the from one product to other product for the production of different various products. We get tight tolerances and ovalities on the product, which ultimately guarantee us the final product quality. The main basic concept to have a higher level automation, Industry 4.0 and artificial intelligence within the mill to avoid or the manpower intervention on the floor when the mill is running. We can say it the no man on the floor concept with quick changing devices on the roll stand, blocks, and speed shear and laying heads. So it is just one man can supervise and overlook the every complete operation, whether it is maintenance operation, whether it is the running of rolling operation from the single pulpit. So as I told previously also, the all offline processes which was done in the previous mills, here all processes are going to be done in online. So we can say it inline treatments of the products for the drastic reduction of the offline processes. Ultimately, it reduces our manpower requirement, our time consumption on the handling of the equipment, taking it to one place to other place. And here the one big benefit we are getting from this mill, but this is the inline instrument for shape, dimension, and surface quality detection, and it give a immense advantage to give us the online you can say certificate for the final product quality on real-time basis. As here the intelligence artificial intelligence is working, basically it is a collection of data. We collect the all data, like if something happened previously in the mill, any breakdown, any misrolls and other things, that data is collected, and that data is itself analyzed by the computer, and then to avoid the future same type of mishappening and same type of misrolls, same type of breakage in the mill. So going forward, Q3 intelligence technology to continuously collect, track, and analyze all the data coming from source of the mill, like workshop, laboratory, rolling lines, and guaranteeing a premium quality on the product. And there is a one big change in this type of mill is that we are also adopting the green technology, and Denali is and also thanks to our management, they are pushing Denali to go and adopt the green technology, and also propose our customers in the market with this green technology. Here we are for a small example. Here in previous mills, the all operations and other things usually done by the hydraulic cylinders, hydraulic motors, and pneumatic cylinders and other things. Here, this all hydraulic cylinders we have replaced with the electric devices. So this is the ultimately when you are operating hydraulic or grease, there is some water pollution, soil pollution, and other things. So by replacing these hydraulic cylinders, equipments with the electrical devices, give a benefit to us on the you can say we can save by polluting, save our water by getting polluted, save even we are not polluting soil and environment further. So these are the certain benefits and other things. As already I told that there's a less number of manpower required with this type of fully automated mill. As you can see, here is the example. Here you can see the total requirement of the manpower in the mill. It is 3-shift mill. Directly operative on the shift hours requirement is 63. Operative in the mill operation shop is only required 5, and these all 5 are sitting in the pulpit when the mill is running. And there is no intervention on the mill. Operative in the roll turning shop is 3 manpower required. And operative in the quality control department is only 6 for the three shifts itself. Why? Because we have online measuring systems and other things which give us a online control of the quality of the bar. Wire rod mill offices others 7. So ultimately, for this type of mill in the 3 shift, we required only 84 manpower, which can run this type of advanced mill. Along with this, I would this is it from my side, and I will also like we are as a Denali as a technology supplier. It is our responsibility also, and we are trying our best and putting our effort to put that product in market, which can be highly technologically advanced and environment friendly, basically, which can give a so that our by purchasing our product and other things, our customer also be able to do production in a non-polluting way and with high efficiency and highly automated system. As right now, by Mr. V.R. Sharma also told very well that we are in the phase of right now in India where we should adopt the advanced technologies, missions, and so that we should also train our manpower skillfully so that they are ready to handle this type of advanced technologies. So this is from our side, sir, and please let me know. I would like to thanks everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pankaj Sharma. This was one topic which I was looking forward to since, in the last Daneli news, I was reading on QWR 4.0. I got very interested, so immediately I sent across a mail because this was of personal interest to me, and I'm happy because I have been to that plant in ABS. In fact, most of the time when I go and visit the headquarters in Botrio, I make it a point to see if there is an opportunity to go and visit the ABS plant because I love that plant. I was there for when the largest bloom, 850 mm bloom was cast. The largest bloom was cast. I was there for that function as well. When in fact the Prime Minister of Italy was also present along with Mr. Benedetti. So I was there in that function as well in Botrio. So as you must have seen, Daneli is present in every webinar that we do, primarily because I have a very close interaction with all the 3 major darlings, Daneli, SMS, and Primetals. But Daneli occupies a very special place, primarily because Daneli has never turned down my request whenever I requested for. And Daneli, let us be honest, Daneli is the strongest among the 3 big darlings when it comes to the long product sector.
Thank you.
Maybe,
thank you very much, sir.
Maybe SMS could be good in the flat, but when it comes to the long product segment, I would undoubtedly say Daneli has a better presence. So with that, I'll move on to our next speaker, which is Mr. Ravi Mahajan, obviously again an ex-Daneli man. With his Daneli grooming, I'm sure he'll have much to add. So Mr. Ravi Mahajan is now the proprietor of Radiance Consultant. So he's from a Daneli man, he has become a self-employed professional. So my real congratulations to him for taking this initiative. And Mr. Mahajan, the floor is yours. And followed by Mr. Mahajan will be our last speaker, Mr. Anuj Solanki, who is also a proprietor of TechSmith Steel Solution. So after Mr. Mahajan, back to back, Mr. Solanki. Go ahead, Mahajan ji, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And I would like to start with the presentation. Here, I would like to first introduce Radiant Consultant. And then I will go ahead with the with an Italian company, Mitec STG Italy, whom I am presently representing for business development and marketing. So, a Radian consultant. After I I left Danieli. I started as a freelance consultant, and a Radian consultant came as a was conceived in 2019, and the part of that, I was also last 2 years associated with Cox Germany through TechSearch, and we got an order from RGS for a 3-roll technology for Cox Germany. And from Feb 2021, I'm now associated with this Mitec STG Italy, who are one of the very important steel technology manufacturers for all the steel plant equipments like the electric arc furnace and casters, LF, rolling mill. Radian Consultant, I just conceived in 2019, and with my experience of 32 years in the long rolling mill, and basically this is focused mostly on the long rolling mills, TMT bar, wire rod, SBQ bar mills. And as a Mitec, I'm also focused on mini mills, electric arc furnace based steel mill shops, casters, and rolling mills, and also reheating furnaces. Now I'll take you to Mitec STG presentation, where I will give you insight into the various equipments they are manufacturing for the steel plant. So basically, Mitec STG is a company formed from 5 different companies, where the STB is for electric arc furnace, LF casters, and vacuum degassing, VOD, AOD, and then the second one is for dedusting, heat recovery, energy savings, recycling, and the other 2, the JITCO and Syntec, are for the rolling mills, and SIT-Forni, as you all know, is for reheating furnaces and combustion processes. So all these together have now been.
Mr. Mahajan, can you put the presentation on full screen mode? There is a comment from Mr. Shenoy who mentioned just now.
I'll put that. I'll put that. Yeah.
Just put that in for, yeah, there you are. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So the Mitec STG field of expertise is basically mini mills from electric arc furnace based and integrated steel plants. And they can supply equipment right from the scrap treatment, electric arc furnace, then ladle, vacuum, continuous casting, hot rolling mills, reheating furnaces, and even the auxiliaries like water treatment plants, slag treatment, and automation for all the manufactured equipment what they are manufacturing. And the mini mill is a complete concept right from the scrap to the finish or rolling of the product. So complete mini mill can also be supplied through Mitec STG. So they are basically based as a headquarter in Milano in Italy, and they have 2 workshops, one in Brescia and one is Udine. Udine is basically an engineering office. And these are the equipment expertise of Mitec STG. Complete melt shops can be supplied, fume treatment plants, LF, ladle turrets, continuous casting machines. Then in the rolling mill, there are different types of rolling stands, shears, blocks, high-speed wire rod blocks, laying heads design speed of 140 meters per second, high-speed layout laying heads. Then we have the steel melt shop, complete equipments are manufactured. Then you have the FTPs and the dedusting systems. Then the billet casters, bloom casters, vertical slab casters are there. Water treatment plant for the melt shop as well as for the rolling mill. Then reheating furnaces right from the pusher type, walking hearth, walking beam furnaces can be supplied. And then the rolling mills, the continuous rolling mills. You can see slit rolling. And then greenfield projects, like revamping of projects. Existing projects can be done, or all melt shop projects, casters and rolling mills can be done. Then the rolling mill stands, they manufacture all types of rolling mill stands, be it horizontal, vertical, convertible stands, stands which can be used in vertical or horizontal mode. Then these are the various sizes of the housing list cartridge stand they are manufacturing, which is used depending on the size of the billets and the finish size required. These are the stand pictures manufactured. Then the different types of rolling shears are manufactured, right from the crank shears, rotary shears. Then this is a water quenching line for the TMT bar. It is also manufactured in-house. And the cooling bed for the rebar rounds and flats. Cooling beds are the normal standard design, the rake type, and also twin channel. You can see here, double twin channel cooling beds are also there. Cooling bed also, we can do revamping of the cooling beds. This you can see from this picture, it is a existing one. This has been revamped with giving more buffer space to take more bars on the cooling bed, and other features have been added so that there is no scratching of the bars while being transported on the cooling bed. Then these are the straighteners for the section mills. So they are manufacturing straighteners. Then the wire, high-speed wire rod lines, wire rod blocks are there. These are the design features which we can discuss one-to-one if required in detail. Then these are the laying heads, wire rod loop forming device with the pinch roll, intelligent pinch roll. These are the pinch roll and laying head combination. Then there are different types of water cooling lines for the plain ground as well as for the quenching lines. So there are different combinations which depends on the requirement of the mill. So different lines can be supplied. Then now we'll discuss some layouts. One is a mini mill and integrated plant layout where you start from the scrap. You have the electric arc furnace, LF, then the caster, and then you have the reheating furnace, and the various types of rolling mills can be incorporated. It's a complete integrated plant, or a mini mill you call. And this one, you can see there are two blocks here, and this goes to the cooling bed, smaller sizes, and also a wire rod line. So you can do wire rod line, cooling bed, and also bigger sizes through central line. Then these are the various products in the mini mills that can be done: round and deformed bars, wire rods, angle, channels, teeth, flats, starting material from 160 up to 160 square billets, 12-meter length. Then the melt shop can be designed up to 1 million ton capacity. It can be scrap or scrap plus DRI based electric arc furnace. The arc furnace capacity 30 to 220 tons. Ladle furnace will be similar capacity. Then you have the continuous casting machines from 300 tons per annum to 1 million tons per annum. Number of strands from 1 to 6 strands. Casting radius 5 to 12 millimeter. And then the sections that can be cast is a huge range from 200 to 400 round blooms, square billets up to 250, beam blanks 430 up to 430 to 300 can be done. Then the reheating furnaces, as I told you, it can be pusher, walking hearth or walking beam, and it can be burner feeding, can be anything, natural gas, LPG, oil, or blast furnace gas, coke oven gas. Burners can be designed for these fuels. Then the medium section rolling mill. This is a typical medium section reference mill of Mitec, where you can see complete section mill is being shown. And these are the products that can be rolled: angles, channels, beams, and the starting billets up to 430, 300 can be rolled in this mill. These are some of the pictures of the section mill. You can see a straightener here, reheating furnace, a rolling stand. Then a special steel rolling mill where you roll special steels. And this again is a combination. You have a high-speed rougher to contain the temperature drop. And then you have different lines here. You have a cooling bed line. Then you have a Garrett coiler for bigger size rounds. And then you have a wire rod line. And we also have a sizing unit here because for special steels, obviously you need a good tolerance and a good finish on the bars. So in the special steel rolling, these are the various product ranges you can have. A wire rod 5.5 to 16, big rounds in coil in the Garrett coiler 18 to 50, rounds for machining and springs from 18 to 60, spring flats, starting material of blooms up to 350 mm can be rolled. And these are some of the pictures of the special steel mill. And these are some overseas projects references where you can see some melt shops are there, rolling mills, and different types of sinter plant is also been is a reference plant here. They are all references. And then those are the main references. Overall, in the last 30 years, so many references have been there. Europe, Middle East, America, and the rest of the world also, we have a lot of references here. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi Mahajan.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you are now representing Mitech SCG in India exclusively, or do they have other people?
No, not exclusively yet.
Okay. So the next
Just started,
time,
so it will happen soon.
have you generated any inquiries so far?
Inquiries, we have generated some inquiries. Yes, sir. Offers have been given. So looking forward to more inquiries to take things forward. Yeah.
To get more inquiries, you'll have to, give me some advertisements for the next year.
Sure, sure. We're looking into that also. Sure.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Mahajan. I think our last speaker has disappeared. Mr. Solanki is not there anymore. I can't see him anymore. Okay. There is a question in the chat section which Mr. Anil Kumar Chaudhary would like to answer live. So, Sir Chaudhary Sahab, if you, where can we buy steel sheets, large IV, large steel channels that we use for prefab buildings? Prefab buildings.
So these are all to long steel, and I suggest that best way to buy them is that SAIL has been manufacturing all these things. I-beam, SAIL has been manufacturing C channels and light structures, medium structures, heavy structures, all are being produced by SAIL. Of course, these sizes had becomes at point of time become a problem. Like you are not able to get all sizes, and for structural, it is very important that all sizes are made available simultaneously. Otherwise, these are of no use. And the same problem we have been facing for some other sectors also, particularly for this transmission towers, that we are not able to supply all the sizes in one go. And in steel industry, that problem is there for everyone. Because the quantity requirement is very small and you have to go for the campaigns. So it may take some time to get all the sizes and you may be able to get it over a period of time. But I would suggest that SAIL is having a very wide network of branches and regional offices, and also at headquarters they are available, at Kolkata they are available. So you can definitely get in touch with SAIL. Likewise, JSPL has also been manufacturing. And good thing is with JSPL that they are able to meet the size requirement, and also whatever sizes they are not having, they are able to get it done from outside, which SAIL has not been able to do it. That's why you must have seen that this Omex choke is coming at Chandni Chowk. They have given their entire requirement of this light structures and channels, etc., to one place, that is JSPL. Whatever they are able to produce themselves, they are supplying them. Otherwise, they are getting it done from outside. So I believe that these are the two companies in integrated sector who will be able to help it.
Thank you, Chaudhary Sahab. Let me tell you, when I used to go to my college, the name of my college in Kolkata was St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, and we used to call ourselves Xaverians. So the saying is, our fathers used to tell us, once a Xaverian, always a Xaverian. In a similar tone, I would like to say, once a SAIL chairman, always a SAIL chairman.
Oh no, so
definitely. Even today, you are battling for SAIL, which is to say that you remain a loyal chairman of SAIL. So I would like to leave out the word ex-chairman. I would like to say that you are still though you are not holding the chair, but you are still the chairman and battling out for SAIL. And like you say, the national flag bearer. So SAIL is the flag bearer of the nation, because had SAIL not been there, the steel industry would not have progressed the way it has over the years. So
I'm there for good companies, be it SAIL, JSPL, Tata Steel. Whenever it comes to TMT, I always tell, if you are not able to get it from SAIL, go to Tata Steel. You will be able to get the best of the quality. But of course, the people have to understand about the technical requirement and the availability of steel. Today, the problem is that whatever architect tell them, you go for FE 500D, he will be looking for 550D only, not 500, like without going into what is the UTS to YS ratio, which he wants. If it is 1.16, you are getting, and he has advised you 1.10. And even in this 500D, you are able to get it. Why not to go for that? Today, RNL is, for example, not manufacturing 550D. They are not giving the mark of 550D. So many of the contractors of NHAI, they are not able to go to RNL and get their requirement from RNL. They are looking from other producers only. So other day, Mr. Mohanty was talking to me, and we were discussing about the same subject, that 550D. I said, why can't you do that 550D? You start marking it 550D, you are meeting the requirement. So he said that it could take some time, but we will do that. So I'm there for all like good companies, those who are able to supply the good steel, be it SAIL, GSPL, Tata Steel, JSW, or any other company for that matter.
Thank you, Chaudhary Sahab. Mr. Mazumdar, would you like to add anything? Because you have to bat for Tata Steel today.
No, I think Mr. Chaudhary has already batted for everyone. And it's a...
Yeah, collectively, this is, I was very happy, in the last MITEC and the MITEC before that. So last MITEC was 2019 and the MITEC before that was in 2015. So what I was happy to find in the MITEC, you had a generic Indian steel booth. So which is to say that India as a nation is together when it comes to industries, strategic industries like the steel industry. Because, I always see the steel industry, which has given me bread and butter, to call it a strategic industry. Because the entire nation and under Mr. Chaudhary's chairmanship, this from Needle to Chandrayaan, this campaign was launched. So from and if you remember the good old days, the campaign of SAIL used to be there's a little bit of SAIL in everybody's life. So that was the campaign. Like I know the story of when Mr. Rusi Modi to Dr. Irani, the transformation took place. That time, there was a heated exchange of words what Tata Steel's campaign should be, because Mr. Modi was of the belief, Mr. Rusi Modi believed that we also make steel should be the campaign. But then when Dr. Irani came, he changed it completely. He said, what do you mean we also make steel? Steel is our bread and butter. So, that's how the campaign Dr. Irani launched was where you come first. Where you meant in a very big way, not only the customer, but the entire, the ecosystem of where Tata Steel caters to. The community, the villages around Jamshedpur.
That's how today it is, we also make tomorrow.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's good that, this industry feels one, it acts as one.
Correct. And the big players like SAIL, Tata Steel, JSW, now JSPL and all, there is a good camaraderie and cohesion, and that is in fact taking the country forward, because as was told, like becoming 300 million ton by 2030 is a tall task. And these front runners, the bigger players, they are showing the way for others.
Mr. Mazumdar, what I feel a little sad about is even after so many years, India does not have an association of steel of its own. Now, Indian Steel Association or earlier the Indian Steel Alliance are only a few players, only the biggest players who are there together. So when Mr. R.S. Pandey, who later became Petroleum Secretary, was Steel Secretary, and I traveled with him to Paris for the World Steel Association AGM. So we were together during the entire trip. And I kept on telling Mr. Pandey that you should take the initiative to ensure that we have an association of our own, which is comprehensive, where everyone is very inclusive. We don't have one in this country. Look at Germany. In Germany, they have, of course, the last few years, they have not been able to do it. But every year, they used to have a National Steel Day, which is called the Stahltag. Tag is day, Stahl is steel. So Stahltag in Dusseldorf was organized every single year in the first weekend of November. And they had 3,000 people attending that. And I have been attending this for more than 25 years. So look at every year I go to the CRC conference, Southeast Asia Iron and Steel Institute conference. You see the association Thailand has, association Singapore has, Malaysia has. They have like a 5 million ton, 10 million ton market. Thailand has a very strong association. Same goes for Malaysia. So why can't we Indians have an association of our own where you have an inclusive participation from, as we said, we don't call them secondary anymore, the smaller players, the large players, everyone. There will be conflict of interest. Everywhere there is a conflict of interest. But you have a common agenda, otherwise coalition governments would not have been formed over the years. So this is something I feel bad about, and I have used my, within my limited small little capacity as a small journalist, small-time journalist, I have tried to convince everyone that let's come together to bring this country together. It's unfortunate it has not happened. Mr. Subrata Mitra, over to you, sir, for your concluding remarks and summing up.
Thank you, Nirmala. Thank you. Thanks to all the panelists. So started by Mr. Sharma. As usual, we spoke elaborately on various subjects is to cut short. What he said, as on earlier occasions also, induction furnaces need to be converted into electric arc furnaces, and one tariff for electricity throughout the country, and shift to scrap to control the CO2 emissions. And with respect to technology, he spoke about the generation of high-speed mills and the electrification of railway lines, and low voltage to high voltage transmission and DC transmission will open up a huge requirement of steel. And the river linking projects which are being planned by government also will generate huge requirement of infrastructure, steel, and the customer-centric actions need to be taken. Then Mr. A.K. Saxena spoke on Long's demand. A.K. Saxena, Director RINL, spoke on Long's demand and supply base, strong supply base. Semis are strong and billet exports. Semis are relatively strong than the finished product, and billets are being exported. Price of RINL, price of iron ore and coking coal is hitting too much on the price front. Prices of ferroalloys are also affecting. China's reduced production has enabled long product expansion, exports. Then ex-cell chairman, Mr. Chaudhary, spoke as on earlier occasions elaborately on the whole steel scenario. Spoke on categories of long products, gave an overall outlook on long steel in India. Prices of flat has gone very high as compared to longs, comparing 69,000 versus 40,000. Steel cement ratio need to be looked into. Secondary refining required for smaller units. Quality consciousness need to be increased. JSPL and SAIL not getting order for rails from Indian Railways. This is worrying. Actually, Bhilai rail mill is practically less utilized. Rolling capability needs enhancement, and importance should be given to long steel technology. He definitely predicts the growth of long products in near future. Mr. Joyakar Roy from ICRA, analyst, presented the key users of long steel. Long product 54%, 54% of the steel requirement in India, steel production, of which induction furnace contributes 27%. Long product growth recently is unimpressive. Growth rates of longs and flats comparison he showed. Domestic iron ore shortage has adversely affected the pricing and growth. Of course, the pandemic effect was there. Share of infra in GDP from 5% is likely to grow to 10%. Mr. Debashish from Tata Steel and Mr. Char of Tata Steel Long Products Group spoke elaborately on the sustainable steel production for long product, spoke on macroeconomic mega trends, opportunities and risks, steel demand outlook, future of steel, roadmap for low carbon emission steel. Growth forecast shown as 5 to 7 matching with the 5.5 to 7%. Overall growth appears sustainable at 3%, but we need further growth. Short growth boosters, share the growth boosters enablers for growth of loans. Future should be based on clean steel, digitalization, and capable workforce. Mr. Rahit Sadaka of India Ratings and Research, Pitch Consultant, spoke on the China's scenario in global steel. He spoke on drivers for steel demand. China policy measures also we highlighted with respect to impact assessment, impact on the steel industry. Spoke on iron ore, short supply of iron ore, how it is affecting the steel price. Mr. Pankaj Sharma of Danieli spoke on the ABS plant, Italy. Things where we came to know. Online treatment, of course, it is known. The key thing what he elaborated was hydraulics are being replaced with electrical devices. This is this appears see change in the plant operation, in the equipment operation. ABS plant, which is known for many of the long products, they in fact cast the biggest bloom size. Manpower requirement is 84 people. They manage the plant. Mr. Ravi Mahajan of Radiance Consultant, proprietor of the company, spoke on their tie-up with STG of Italy. 5 companies merged together and they supply electric arc furnace, diamond furnace, CCM, government gas, including casters. They are complete suppliers of melt shop and rolling mills. This was in brief whatever discussions we had from the eminent panelists. It was quite absorbing, value-added program. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks for the panelists.
Thank you, Subrata. Thank you so much. With that, Mr. Subrata Mitra always keeps a note of every panelist details. So my special thanks to him. And he has always been there to support us right from the beginning. In fact, let me put this on record. Even when he was the joint managing director of M.N. Dastur before his superannuation, there was hardly a single webinar where I have not seen him. Whenever I have requested him, Mr. Subrata Mitra has been kind enough to join us. I remember when the governor of West Bengal attended our last physical conference that we could do, because just after that, the pandemic started. The last seminar we did where the governor of West Bengal was the chief guest, Subrata, immediately when I requested him to be there, he was there. And that was the last physical conference we had. And since then, Mr. Subrata Mitra had been there for all the webinars, chairing the organizing committee and advising me on a day-to-day basis whom we should invite, whom we should ask to be there. And all this he has done without any interest whatsoever. I have never even been able to give him a single penny. But he has been kind enough to assist us without any personal interest. So this is what you call interest for the industry.
No, Nirmal, I have a point. Actually, sorry to interrupt you. SAIL is my mentor. I worked in SAIL in the initial years. So steel fraternity, it is the duty of all of us to move forward as a steel man. Working in SAIL, shifting to consulting engineering. So this connection is there for nearly, I should say, 49 years. Anyway, thanks for all these good words. Thanks.
Thank you, Subrata. Thank you so much. Now, I would request Ankit to propose a vote of thanks and also to congratulate our new steel minister who has just taken over, and our Minister of State, Phaggan Singh Ji, who has got the additional portfolio of rural development. So Ankit, please propose the vote of thanks as per the custom.
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. A lot of important topics were discussed, innovative ideas were shared, And I would like to thank all the panelists and all the attendees for being here today and making the session a vibrant one. Now, before I move on to the vote of thanks, I would like to congratulate Shri Fagan Singh Kulaste ji on assuming additional charge as Minister of State for Rural Development, in addition to Minister of State for Steel. And yeah, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank sorry, I shared the wrong screen. Yeah, I would like to congratulate Shri Ramchandra Prasad Singh on being sworn in as the new Union Minister of Steel, and of course, Mr. Fagan Singh Kulaste as well. So my heartfelt gratitude goes out to our silver sponsor, Sham Steel, and our lead sponsor, Jindal Steel and Power. Special thanks to the organizing committee led by Mr. Shubrata Mitra and to everyone from the Steel and Metallurgy team for making this event possible. Now, before I wrap the session, I would like to announce our next webinar, which is called Challenges and Opportunities in Iron Ore, DRI, HBI, and pelletization segment for a sustainable steel industry. It will be on the 23rd of July at the same time as today, 3:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. So I hope to see you all there again on the 23rd of July. With that, I would like to wrap up today's discussion. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Special thanks to all the panelists. And special thanks to Chaudhary Saab, who has spent so much time right from the beginning. And he has been doing it even as Chairman SAIL. When he was handling 5-6 plants together, even then he would attend wherever I have requested him here. So my special heartfelt thanks. And thank you so much, Mr. Mazumdar. Thank you, Rohit. Thank you, Mr. Sadaka. Thank you very much. Thank you, Shubrata. Thanks for everyone. See you in the next webinar.